Last time on Crowntide. Isla went missing and the boys are sad. After acting like 15-year-olds for a bit, they decided to figure out how to save her. Isla was sent to a weird desert, with Lark, where the sand is sometimes ash. Their powers don't work in the desert, of course. The boys faffed around uselessly until they thought to ask Mommy Cleo for help. They went to Cleo, who had been sitting on several prophecies, including one about an upcoming war called Crowntide. Still determined to get to Isla, the boys and Cleo followed nonsensical clues to another secret spot at sea. Isla and Lark were kidnapped by sandbenders. Isla escaped for 10 seconds, then got recaptured. So glad we got to watch that. The boys went to the sea floor to fight zombies and each other. Isla and Lark finally escaped the sandbenders when weird knights attacked from the sky. She and Lark escaped through a mini sky portal. The boys found an undead king at the bottom of the ocean who gave them clues and another MacGuffin. I don't know about you, but I can't wait to find out what happens next.
Alright, I know you're getting really sick of seeing this little dog, but I thought in the last video that I had used up all of the footage that I had with my camera's audio, so it would all be collected into one video, and then I realized that I was wrong. I had at least one more session with only my camera's audio, but very soon we should be getting to my mic's audio, and I think I have figured out how to make it not sound like ass, so thank you so much for all of your patience. I hope you're enjoying this, audio issues notwithstanding. Anyway, trying to do a bit of filming today because I have no energy and I need to have some because I need to get things done today. So we're going to try film a little bit and see if that gives me a boost. We are back with Isla. What joy to be back with Isla. It's only been like a day and I don't remember what silly bullshit is going on with Isla. Oh, we have a flashback. Do I have a writing utensil? Oh no. Hang on, I just got all cozy and I don't have a writing utensil.
A few moments later.
We have a flashback. We're starting out with a flashback, so we're crossing off flashback on the bingo card. Anyway, Isla's having, as I mentioned, a flashback to when she was 8 years old, being abused by her guardians. That's what happens when she's a kid. It's basically dueling practice, a poorly written dueling practice scene where Isla is asking about her parents and Tara is like, they are both dead, and Isla apparently always kind of having a slight interest in resurrecting the dead because she's like, well, if wildlings can bring plants to life, why can't we bring people back to life? Then her teacher ends the match by knocking Isla unconscious. So, you know, head trauma. That's really good for 8-year-olds. I'm convinced that Isla's guardians were actually trying to subtly kill her because she wakes up literally like in a puddle of her own blood at the end of the day. So she's been unconscious for like the whole day. 8-year-old Isla has from a head wound. Like she has a traumatic brain injury. She has to have, right? Like I said, I'm convinced her guardians actually just wanted her dead, and every time she walked back in after one of their murder attempts, they were endlessly disappointed. We do have to feel sorry for our poor would-be Isla, who's not like the most powerful person in the universe at one point in her life, when she was abused and told that she was less than nothing because her first cry killed her parents. I think that's the implication here, is that Tara liked Isla's mom, and when Isla was born and murdered her parents with her super uber powerful first cry, Tara was deeply upset about that, and that's why she hates Isla, I guess. But then we have a moment with Poppy, who we decided retroactively after the first book that Poppy was the good guardian, the good cop to Tara's bad cop. And so she's the one who's like binding Isla's injuries and healing her up and stuff. Isla has totally, though, always been obsessed with her mother, even though this really has not come up. And it turned out that she had made like an effigy of her mother in the back of her closet, which was never mentioned until this flashback. Oh, is this a hint of something we're gonna get? Little Isla says, I wish I could fall through time and know you. Are we doing time travel? Is that why there was like an hourglass / infinity symbol on the cover? Oh god, Aster cannot handle time travel. Are you kidding me? Time travel is complex to write. There's absolutely no way.
It's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
So we cut from that memory back to the forest. Apparently Isla, like, saw a child in the forest, I guess, is where we left her. But the child is gone, and maybe that was Isla as a child, or Isla's mother as a child, or I don't know. Or maybe it was just a hallucination, who knows. But she's in a forest with Lark. So apparently this is the forest of memories or some bullshit, because Lark is like, yeah, this is, the forest here forces you to walk through your past. Isla decides, because, I don't know, because the plot said so that she wants to keep Lark alive, even though she could kill her right here, right now. But she's like, nope, I need her help to escape from this forest. Sure, I guess. I mean, she did know what it was, so I guess she knows how to escape it. I'm sure Isla would be fine on her own. Let's be real. Isla, who's good at everything, would be fine on her own. She'd get trapped in a couple of memories. She'd snap out of it by probably thinking about Grimm, or thinking about how badass she is, and then that would be it. We don't need Lark. She could have just stabbed her, but nope. They're going together. Enemies have to be friends and work together. Alright, well, that was the whole chapter. It was just the memory of baby Isla being tortured and being like the most put upon. Because we gotta remember that Isla wasn't always the most powerful person in all the lands with the most powerful relic in all the lands. For a while, she was being abused. So, feel bad for her. Alright, one more chapter, then I gotta go do things. We are back with Oro, who I prefer to be with if I gotta be with somebody. They've gone back to Lightlark, they're at Oro's castle, presumably holding hands the whole way, but Grimm throws the threads down on the table and he's like, that was useless. And I'm like, dude, you got a relic, you just don't know what to do with it. I just don't think Grimm thinks things through sometimes, because Oro's like, hey, these threads are supposed to be able to help us save the universe. And Grimm's like, I don't care about the universe, I only care about my wife. And I'm like, yes, but if the universe is gone, where are you and your wife going to live? So they're going back and forth about which of their love is the strongest love, for Isla, of course. And Oro's like, well, maybe he's right. He knew Isla. He knew she cared about others. It was the entire reason she left this world in the first place. Press B to doubt, because we know that Isla doesn't care about other people. Are you kidding? So for some reason, the conclusion that the boys come to is that they need a connection to the other world from everybody in their world or something. I don't know. It's really confusing and really dumb. But the end point is that they need to talk to Azul about his dead husband, because the dead husband has a connection to the other world now. If they can somehow commune with the dead husband, it's very confusing. Just like, I don't know why I keep trying to make sense out of this. You're just supposed to nod along. Whatever this book says is just the thing that can happen, has always been able to happen, and we just haven't thought of it until now. Apparently, we're finding out for the first time, but everybody knew, that Azul's husband was a moonling? I thought that marrying between, like, nations was super, super rare and nobody did it. Apparently, and this is what I had canon, Azul's basically running everything now. Like, I guess a bunch of people portaled to his land for safety during the war, and he's just, like, in charge of them. So I choose to believe, until I'm told otherwise, that Azul is just running Starling, he's running Wildling, he's like all of these nations that don't have leaders, he's just in charge of them now. Because he's the only competent leader here. Like, I thought that maybe Cleo was a competent leader, but really her only goal is to make a navy for some reason, and get her kid back. Those are her goals, one of which she has already achieved. Who knows what her people are doing now. So they go visit Azul, and after a bit of a preamble that we probably didn't need about how he was in the middle of a council meeting, and then they had to get him out of the council meeting, and then they went to another room, he's like, where is she? So he immediately knows that this is about Isla, which tracks because, as we mentioned, everybody is always thinking about Isla. She is the most important person in the entire universe. So they just talk to Azul. They're like, we need your help to win or stop this war that's called Crowntide for some reason. Again, because Alex asked her to smash two nouns together. And we need your dead husband. And Azul is like, I have no further questions. Let's go see my dead husband. Take me to my dead husband, I guess. Sure. I don't know why Azul doesn't know where his husband is. I don't know why he thinks the boys know where his husband is. It's very confusing. Where is my bookmark? There it is. But that's enough of that. I have to go do things, which is against my will, I'll have you know. We are trying out another new mic. Here she is. She is indeed taped to the mic arm, but we're trying it out. Patrons said that it sounded okay, so hopefully that's true. Alright, today probably is not the best day for filming, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm bored out of my mind. We'll at least try a chapter so that I can say that I did something with my day. Also, it's been like 2 weeks since I read this because I have been having mic issues and trying to get this new mic to work. I am not an audio engineer, even slightly, not an audio editor. I have a lot of skills. I put no points into create good audio. And I don't have time to learn a new skill. So here we are, just trying our best. The struggle is bussin', but we are back with Isla. She was in the memory forest, I think. But we gotta have more flashbacks, because this author doesn't know what to do. This book is all MacGuffin hunts and flashbacks already. So let's begin. Chapter 14. Isla shrugged a single shoulder, take a drink. And we got strange and strange in back-to-back sentences. She glanced at these strange trees. They were ancient, and even with her powers muted, she could feel their strange power. So we don't need both of those stranges. One of them should probably be replaced with something else, or the sentences reworked. As I've mentioned before, that is something that I will do for you as your developmental editor / slightly line editor. I notice those little things, and I point them out for you. So you can decide whether the repetition is intentional, or whether it was a mistake, as it often is, because our brains just latch on to words and like to use them a bunch. It's just something human brains do. Whether you want to get rid of one. How we have more of that, I need her help, but she's my enemy, just basically spelled out on the page. Because this author does not trust you to understand any relationships unless she tells you what they are over and over and over again. In fact, I don't know why we're explaining this thing that we already know. Once again, chapter 14, and it's like the author thinks that we forgot the premise of this book, because there is literally this paragraph. Lark was ancient. We know that. Untrusting, yep. Isla had portaled them to Skyshade. Yep, that is true, we know that. Lark had left her for dead, buried miles under the ground. We do know that, yes. The only reason they were allies now was because of these strange woods. Uh-huh. Those are all facts about mostly the book that we've already read. The only thing that was from the previous book was that Lark buried Isla for a hot minute. Why did we just have that paragraph to remind us all in, again, chapter 14, the premise of the book? You know, I've heard people saying that a lot of Netflix shows now are dumbed down. The dialogue is dumbed down, and there are a lot of reminders of the plot put into the show because Netflix expects you to be doing something else while you're watching. Is that what's happening here? Does Aster assume that you are not paying attention to her book at all and she just needs to remind you every now and then? Giving your readers reminders of key plot points that they need to remember is okay under many circumstances, but you don't need to reiterate like the whole plot, the whole like relationships between two characters that we have been following. But then Isla falls into another memory. I guess that's probably what we're doing. I almost put Isla has sexy times with Grimm in dreams or something like that on there, because I heard that that's a trope that gets used a lot. If the couple gets separated, they still can have dream sexy times. So perhaps that's what will happen, but in memories. Anyway, she's hallucinating again. Oh, I also forgot. I forgot we need to check off torture used as training, because in Isla's last memory, we visited with her mentors teaching her via torture. So in this training scene, her mentor pins her to the ground using nature powers, so makes like the trees and vines pin Isla to the ground, and then has the trees and vines and stuff stab Isla to like pinion her to the ground like an insect on a board. Training, you know? Obviously. We're also rather obsessed with the message that love is ruinous, and our characters learning that it's not, because we have to have them all having been brought up to think that romantic love specifically is very bad, and they have to learn that actually it's the most powerful thing of all. You know, romantic love always saving the day. So Isla, as she's pinned to the ground, is overhearing her guardians talk about her mother, and she's remembering how she was told that her mother ran off and abandoned them because she fell in love, and therefore love is bad. So just in case we didn't think that Isla was tortured enough for that scene, we cut to her later when she's all healed up and sleeping. She wakes up to find her guardian in her room holding her meager possessions, a doll and a comb and like one other thing. So Tara is going to, of course, destroy her dolly because we have to establish how horrible Isla's life was. Nobody's allowed to be fucking happy. Happy people can't save the world. Okay, if you've ever felt a smidgen of happiness, you are no longer allowed to save the world. I'm sorry. Like, I am completely out of the picture because I've been happy loads of times. What the hell? I mean, I have a slightly tragic backstory, but not nearly tragic enough. Nobody pinned me to the ground with magic or took away my toys and like broke them in front of me. I just can't. I have some good childhood memories, so I can't save the world. You guys, it finally happened in is this book 4 or book 5? I think this is book 4. Book 5 if you count the novellas. which I don't know if we should. But she's sobbing on the floor because her only possessions have been broken and reduced to ash in front of her. And she finds this secret compartment on the floor. And in it, she finds a stick. And let me read you the description, because it turns out the star stick is incredibly boring. She pulled out a long, thin stick made of a strange metal. It looked almost like her mother's paintbrush without an end. It glimmered in her hand, shining silver before settling. So the star stick looks like a fucking stick. It's just a stick, a metal rod. Still don't know quite how long it is, but paintbrush length, I guess? Yeah, we finally got it described, but it was like the laziest, like, this magical artifact is a stick. Anyone who guessed that it's just a stick, you're correct. Just a stick. But that means we don't get to cross off star stick not described because we finally know what it looks like. A stick. If I went outside and like threw it, I could lose track of it in seconds. I could put it in my paintbrush cup and not know which was the star stick. But we are linking this keyhole thing because you remember when the portals were opening above her in the other world in Skyshade, she saw something that looked like a keyhole, and that's how she knew it was good. But when she first tried to use her star stick, she created a keyhole portal first that she could look through. So she spends the night looking through the keyhole into another world. No explanation for how she made it go away. Maybe it just went away on its own, just in time for her guardians to not see it. But then Isla wakes up from the memory. She wakes up just in time to see Lark has taken her sword and is doing battle with, it kind of sounds like a vampire. A human-like creature with pallid skin, sharp claws, and fangs that were already dripping blood. But Lark's not a very good sword fighter, and Isla's like, she probably is not used to living without her powers, but I have. And it's like, yeah, because you keep finding ways to shut off your powers because you're afraid of them. Isla's leg is injured again. She injures her legs a lot. Apparently this critter was chewing on her leg before Lark got to attacking it. But if you're worried if this will be a hindrance, it is not. Lark throws Isla the sword, and Isla easily beheads the vampire. Isla feels certain that this creature had not always looked like that, had not always been a vampire, and she's like, it's because Cronin cursed this world. It used to be a beautiful world and he cursed it. And because she's Isla, she's probably right. But then before she can ask Lark any follow-up questions, now Lark gets locked into a memory. At least it's nice that they seem to take turns. She grabs Lark's limp body and starts dragging her. I don't know if Aster uses a random monster generator or Gen AI to come up with these things, but they are so random. So there's a new monster attacking now, and it's tree zombies. So they come out of the trees, they burst out of the trees, and they are both made of wood and also rotting flesh. Tree zombies. Now Isla's running from tree zombies, because that's a thing that might as well happen. I should have had more stupid monsters. That should have been on my bingo card for sure. More just dumb monsters. Nigel, not the mic, buddy. But oh no, because she's hindered by having to drag Lark, the zombies have caught her, and they just hoist Isla into the air. She chops off the arm of the one that's lifting her up, and she falls to the ground, and we don't care. Oh no, Isla starts to get lost into a memory just as the tree zombies are closing in. Oh no! And that's the end of the chapter. What will happen to Isla, the memories, and the tree zombies? We don't know. We'll have to stay and watch out. Everything's very, very silly. I hope this new mic is working. Otherwise, we're just going to have more of the camera's audio. You're getting used to it by now. I don't know, man. Mic issues. Anyway, let's continue with the next chapter in a minute. All right, we're back. I put my mic in a slightly different spot. I'm just going to try different things. We're going to see how it goes. I don't want it too close to me, but also I don't want it too far from me, because if it's too far from me, then it sounds muffled. So, chapter 15. Do we have anything? We can't do Starstick Not Described. We finally got it described. Book 4, key item to the entire story in every single book. Used often, only described in book 4. I feel like that would be if the ring in Lord of the Rings was not described until Bilbo's about to throw it into the fire. I'm gonna give it even more prophecies. I think we're there. We keep getting new prophecies, mostly from the boys sections. I feel like we can give it Aster clearly checked out at this point, at least for Isla sections. It feels like she's just running on autopilot. She's just what can I do next? I know, I'll throw some other monster at them. We had 2 random monsters in that last chapter. But, oh, goody gumdrops, we're back with our favorite boy, Grimm. Grimm, the most miserable sad sack in the world. So as you recall, with Grimm and Co., they were going to go somehow summon Azul's dead husband, I guess. Sure, that might as well happen. I should have had sure that might as well happen be my middle square. Lessons learned for next time. Oh good, glad we're hand-waving this away. It had been easy enough to portal to this world after Azul had given them a ring that belonged to his husband. Is this a thing that we've always been able to do? Or is this because of the, power-increasing MacGuffin we recently received? Unclear. He had followed the thread of it to portal them to this place. Great explanation. Would love any better understanding than that, but we're not going to get it. So apparently they are in another dimension or something. The afterlife? I don't know. It's not being physically described yet. It says that it feels heavy, like it's about to rain. Foggy. It's real foggy. That way we don't have to describe any other settings. It's very foggy here. It says Grimm could feel, in italics, the impatience radiating off the sunling similar to his own. Of course he can. He can sense emotions. Grimm's honesty made him the villain, apparently. And I'm like, no, you're the villain because you're a horrible person. You make your previous trauma everybody else's problem. And you have absolutely no sympathy or empathy for anyone except for Isla, and that's only because you want to bang her. So we're getting basically an entire page in this very short chapter, just Grimm thinking about Isla again and how much he needs her. It says, in the middle of reliving one of his favorite moments, he's thinking about Isla, of course, he felt the air shift. What's one of your favorite moments, Grimm? I'm sure it was one of your various sexy times, but which one? Just for fun, tell us which. Something that I remind a lot of my editing clients is that specificity is your friend. Be specific where you can. Don't just say it was one of his favorite memories. Tell us what the memory was. It doesn't take many more words to be specific, and it builds your world, your scene, your character. We've got near 3 times in 2 sentences. Don't think we need that. Apparently they are just casually in the afterlife. I thought that maybe Skyshade was the afterlife, but I guess it's not, or maybe it's only the afterlife for people who've died because of the curses or something, but didn't Azul's husband die because, I don't know, stop asking questions. But Grimm's dad is also here, so this is just the afterlife. Good to know that we could have visited the afterlife at any fucking time, because apparently all he had to do was have an item that reminded someone of that person, and then he could teleport you to the fucking afterlife. But Grimm's papa is proud of him at long last because Grimm managed to get his hands on the very cool rock. That was all that his dad wanted. But Grimm has grown, everyone. He has grown as a person. Just trust me, because of Isla. He's like, I could rub it in my dad's face. I could tell him that I got it for love, the very reason that he would hate that I got it for, and then he'd have to know that for eternity, whatever. But he's like, I'm beyond that now. Isla taught me to let go of my past, and my hatred for my father just doesn't matter anymore. So thank goodness we did that soul-searching, soul healing off of the page. But after he has this moment with his dad, he turns around and his buddies are gone. Oro and Azul are gone, and that's the whole chapter. So this entire chapter was just Grimm visits the afterlife, thinks for a page and a half about how much he loves his wife, sees his dad, decides that he's over it, and we move on. I feel like we could have skipped that chapter and really lost nothing. We never saw Grimm actually do the work to get past the trauma that his father put him through, so just claiming that he totally has, trust me, you guys, it felt so pointless. Especially if you haven't read the novellas and you don't really have a solid idea of what Grimm's relationship was like with his father, to then have him meet his father and dismiss it immediately in a page, and we're already moving on to something else? Yeah, that is the epitome of a chapter that needs to just be cut. Or you need to beef it up. It needs to be cut or beefed up, because right now it is not doing its job at all. And if I was the developmental editor for this book, I'd be like, I really need you to step back and look at this chapter like a reader, not like you yourself, the author. Look at it like a reader and ask yourself, is this doing anything for my story or my characters? No? We're moving on. But that chapter is really short, so I'll probably read Oro's chapter where maybe we'll finally, that one's also really short, maybe we'll finally get to see Azul's husband.
Get used to disappointment.
I feel like maybe this is the one where Oro gets a moment with his dad, probably, or his mom, somebody dead. Maybe the guy that he gilded. Who knows? We'll find out. Alright, let's find out what happens in Oro's chapter. I'm just gonna do this until I get bored or fall asleep or something. Oro's chapter. Oh, he's seeing his brother. Alright, I guess the wrong family members. He's seeing Egan, which does make sense. He was closest with Egan for like a chapter in the novella. He appeared like a gleaming shred of light. Maybe she meant shard of light? I think he's supposed to look very like happy and glowing. Shred doesn't quite do it. It feels like then he's just like a little sliver. There's like a sliver of Egan there. Again, this will only really mean something to the people who have read the novellas, because you can explain to us all day that he used to be close with his brother, but we didn't see it in these books, so it's just telling. So if you have not read the novellas, these previous 2 chapters will feel so pointless and hollow to you. I mean, they do even as someone who read the novellas, but if you haven't, it's even worse. Even Egan, who is dead, and a spirit in the misty afterlife, shrugs a single shoulder. Good to know that they even do that beyond the grave. Will we find out here, because this is, I guess, where the dead go, will we find out whether Oro's mother can, like, visit him or look on over him from this afterlife? Because in the novellas, Oro mentioned, I believe it was in the novellas, I'm pretty sure, Oro mentioned that he liked to imagine that his mother was like there or present or watching over him, but not really giving us any indication of whether that was a common belief among their people. So this would be an amazing time to learn if it was actually true and a thing that could happen. I very much doubt we're going to find out, though.
Oh, you're right.
We do find out that this is not the only part of the afterlife. There's another part, basically heaven, that's like bright and glowing according to Egan, but sometimes Egan says he still comes here to this misty area. Are we just going to skip over Azul and his husband completely? Oh my god. Please tell me we're not. Like, we're back with Isla in the next chapter, and then we're probably back with the boys again. I just want to check. Okay, we'll be back with Grimm again. Because Oro looks around for Azul and doesn't see him and is just like, oh, he must be off speaking with his husband. And I'm like, are we not going to even get to see this poor gay man speak with his dead husband? The way that she will not only give the queer characters in her story the ultimate middle finger, but she goes out of her way to do it. It's not even incidental. She's like, BT dubs, I'm going to let you see your husband again, but we're not even going to get to see the reunion. We're not going to get to see what you talk about. I'm betting now that that's going to be the case. Instead, we can watch these 2 heterosexual losers talk to their dead family members who we don't care about. He basically spills everything that he can to his brother, just like, here's what's going on, here's all the deets, dead brother, which implies to me that Egan is not able to watch and, like, look on over his brother's life. So Egan is like, after Oro is done telling him, Egan is like, man, it sucks that we are so bound to our people because of quote-unquote nexus, which is not capitalized, by the way, seems like it should be. But they're bound by nexus to their people, where if they die, everybody dies. And he's like, there needs to be a way to rectify that. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably good, because the people would like to stop worrying that their ruler's going to die all the time. But also, it would give these characters yet another reason to be awful leaders and not care about their people. Then who should appear beside Egan but the woman that he was sleeping with? Violet, another ancestor of Isla's, apparently. Isla's just connected to this whole royal family. Like, they cannot stop pursuing Isla, even if it's a family member before she was even born. We get a very short paragraph-long rundown of the botched love triangle that happened in the past and caused the curses. And once again, it feels so perfunctory, especially if you have not read the novellas. Both of these scenes basically exist for people who have read the novellas, and if you haven't, you're just wondering why the fuck you're reading this. But Violet is like, where is, because she used to be best friends with Aurora, she's like, where is my bestie? Because she's not here in the afterlife. So is she A, still alive, or B, did she go to the other dimension when she died because she died because of the curses? I don't understand how these afterlives work. And it just says Oro didn't have time to explain. So does that imply that we're supposed to know where she is? I'm so confused. Oh man, we are not going to get to see Azul's husband, are we? Because Egan and Violet fade, and then it says, at that moment, the fog parted with a gentle flurry of air. Azul appeared. His expression was solemn, but Oro could see something within it, something at peace. Wordlessly, he held out his hand, and Grimm and Oro took it. A moment later, they were back at Light Lark. You know what, Alex Astor? I'm just going to say this with my whole chest, with my whole entire chest, for your treatment of the queer characters that you put in the book. Fuck you, Alex. First of all, you killed off his husband to begin with off-page. And then you finally let them reunite, and we don't even get to see it. We don't get to see their conversation. We don't get to see their beautiful reunion. We get nothing. So you know what? Fuck you. And now some people might be saying, yes, this is why, Julian, people shouldn't write queer characters. They don't do a good job. No, we don't. We don't make excuses like that for people to not write queer characters. Here we say, do better. Learn. Try. Treat your queer characters with at least the same care as you give your straight characters. It's not hard at all. And anybody who's saying that, it's too hard, so I can't do it, I shouldn't have any queer characters because it's just too hard. Fucking learn. Same for disabled characters. Same for people of color. Fucking learn. Do some research. Interact with queer people. We do not make excuses for this kind of laziness here. Honestly, I am ashamed of you, Alex Astor. Not that you care, because you're off living your richy rich life and will never notice that I exist. But if you do, I hope that you can feel, in whatever corner of the universe you find yourself, lounging in your rich person apartment, making TikToks about your subpar mediocre books. I hope that in some part of you, you can feel my fuck you roll over you in this moment. That's all. That's the end of that chapter. And why not keep going? I mean, I'm mad now, so that helps me be motivated. Her slipping into a memory was a red herring in the last chapter. She wasn't really doing that. It just felt like she was doing that, but she didn't actually. And when she looks up, all of the zombies are frozen, and Lark apparently stopped them or something. You know me and my obsession with the word shone. We have a light shined in the distance. I believe a light shone in the distance is technically more correct. I know that they're pretty much interchangeable nowadays, but I am here to advocate for the word shone. It's a beautiful word, and it sounds better here than shined. But a glowing woman is approaching Isla. This is a funny mental image. With a simple flick of her hand, the wood warriors, so we're calling them, not tree zombies. I think tree zombies is more accurate. The wood warriors all scattered, rolling through the woods like sand being brushed away. So not only are they like blown back, but they're just rolling. Unintentionally hilarious. The woman is basically like, come with me if you want to live, and just like grabs her. And Isla does as she's told because she can just sense that this woman is good. Because Isla's the main character, and therefore she's always right. Do I have Isla's always right crossed off yet? I think I do. Yes, I do already have Isla is always right crossed off. More proof that she is always right. This woman teleports them to a different clearing in the forest. A silver pool of water sat in front of her, very boring way to put that, between the size of a pond and a puddle. That is such an Alex Astor sentence. What does that mean? I would also like to point out that once again, Isla is saved through no effort of her own. Someone has just appeared to save her. A shiny lady has just appeared to both save her and potentially give her a bunch of answers. Like, the plot has arrived. This character is the author putting herself into the story to be like, hello, Isla, it is I, your god, here to explain some shit to you, because I can't figure out how to put it into the story organically. The woman's like, your prophecy, Isla, it's older than you can possibly imagine. Yes, the most important thing about Isla, the prophecy.
Prophecy caused all this trouble.
Oh my god, this woman is Alex Astor because she's obsessed with Isla's past. To fix your future, you must understand your past. Good, great, I can't wait to see more of Isla's friggin' past. These books are constructed more out of past events in these characters' lives than actual things happening to them in the present. Because make no mistake, every one of your actions has led you to this very moment. What actions? Isla is the most passive main character that ever existed. But the strange glowing lady, aka Alex Astor, points to the water and is like, look at the water, Simba. and you'll see your past. And she looks in it and she sees all of her childhood like playing out in the water again. We've already had this revelation with Isla in a different book, but we're having it again. Second verse, same as the first. Isla, watching back her childhood memories, is realizing that her teachers were bad and they abused her. This is the Grandma Tala moment, is what this is. So Isla admits to this strange glowing lady who she's just met that she doesn't want to keep going. She wants to give up, actually. And this woman's like, oh, it's okay. I don't judge you. And, we're doing Grandma Tala from Moana, apparently.
I never should have put so much on your shoulders.
Except for this grandma, who is Alex Astor, I am certain of it, does not say, oh, it's okay, you can give up. We put too much on you. She's like, no, you're strong. You are amazing. You are the chosen one, so you'll be fine. Now this woman is just glazing Isla, as we would expect from anyone who meets her who isn't a monster. They have to praise her. We also have another sort of MacGuffin. Isla's like, but I'm dying, I'm running out of time. You know, we got that ticking clock. For some reason, I think we should have done away with that. That's a plot point that's not really doing you any favors. Nothing that has happened in the story needed that ticking clock of Isla only being able to make it to the end of winter. Fortunately, we are dealing with that a little bit. She's like, drink from the magic memory pool and it will give you more time for some reason. It does take a magical lady in the forest to remind Isla that she's wearing her mother's prophecy ability around her neck in a little necklace. She's like, oh, by the way, when you're ready, you could use that. And Isla's like, oh, yeah, I have another magical MacGuffin that I totally forgot about. Then the magic lady's like, he is coming. So is it Cronin? Probably Cronin. But she gets transported back with the tree zombies who are all still frozen. Lark is there, and Lark is holding off the tree zombies with her magic somehow. Oh, rain is happening now. I guess it just started raining at some point. So Lark can now hold off the tree zombies, and Isla's like, where's the woman? And Lark is like, what woman? All of the tree zombies start to retreat, and they hear this stomping noise of like a giant approaching, and the zombies just close themselves back into their trees. And a man appears, and it says, not just any man. He looked so much like her husband that her heart stopped for a second, but she knew exactly who he was. Cronin. So not only do we got to get all of these characters from the past, but they all look like our present-day characters as well. And then we're all back a little grim, and I don't care. But I'm going to go do something else, because I have had it with this book. Hopefully this audio sounds okay. And welcome back for more of Crowntide. You want to know how little these dumb titles that she's given her books matter? I am like mislabeling them. Like, you know, normally I'll label my files, obviously. Crowntide 1, Crowntide 2, Crowntide 3, whatever. But I'm calling them like Skyshade and stuff like that, because like the titles mean nothing. They mean nothing. They're so just like random. She just shoves two words together and then figures out once she's most of the way through the book what that even means. In Skyshade, we didn't even find out that Skyshade was apparently the name of the universe that Isla is now visiting. Until the end of the book, the very end. The titles mean nothing. Oh my goodness. Every turn that Alex Astor makes is a wrong turn. I don't know how you fail this spectacularly. And also she's failing up, I guess. We're watching her fail up in real time. But let's go, chapter 18, we're back with our favorite boy, Grimm. We keep having to reiterate that the boys think that Isla's in trouble. Like every single chapter with them, one of the first things that we have them say is, Isla was in trouble, and he needed to do something about it. We know. Can we maybe hit some other points? So I'm just going to read for you what Azul says his husband told him. How does the dead husband know these things? I don't know. But nobody asks like, hey, how was it seeing your husband again? Was it good? Was it a good reunion? No, they're just like, give us the information, dude. We don't fucking care. You're just a plot point, not a character. So he says, my husband told me that the oracles on Moon Isle had a mother back in the other world. She drowned in an ancient hidden pool of water. Her body was frozen in ice. Many years later, it was stolen. She was cut open, and the water in her lungs was taken out to create other pools.
Excuse me, what?
This is like not even first draft thoughts of what happened. This is brainstorming thoughts that you wrote down and called it good. But it seems like what we're going with is that some of the lung water was taken to Light Lark and was poured out on Light Lark. But there's also lung water still in the other universe as well, which means that there's a connection via the water, I think. Azul shrugs a single shoulder. Take a drink, everybody. Yep, basically, the plan is to find the pool of lung water. Never going to stop calling it that. And when they do, that should allow Grimm to form a portal to the other world because the waters are connected. Because some lady breathed them in one time.
Well, my days of not taking you seriously are certainly coming to a middle.
They're like, where's the pool of lung water? And Azul is like, I'll take you there, and he takes them to a beach. Apparently, the moon in this world does control the tides, though, because I guess the pool only appears at high tide, and it's low tide right now, of course. So Grimm turns to Oro, and he's like, make it high tide, and Oro says, what do you think I am, the moon? And I'm like, okay, I guess that's a thing. We need Cleo back, I guess, because, like, she parted an entire sea for an extended period of time. She can make it be high tide. But we've already used Cleo. We get one Cleo. That's it. That's your allotment. I suspect that this is our allotment of Azul. He showed up to be a plot point because we needed that. We needed another MacGuffin moment. And so now that he's done with that, he's probably going to be gone the rest of the book. Grimm, you know, the most well-adjusted man on the planet. Oro making that little jokey joke about, like, what am I, the moon, was too much for Grimm. And he's just choking Oro now, I guess. Although this sounds very sexy, because he's, like, growling at him as he, like, holds his throat and points pointy shadows at him. You're anything I tell you to be. And I'm like, if this was a guy girl, everybody would be so wooning, because, like, everybody loves a controlling man. I don't know why Azul is fine with this. Perhaps Azul has figured out that he's not a character, he's just a plot point. And so he's like, I don't care, murder each other. Oro just, like, lights his entire skin on fire and burns Grimm's hand, so he stops strangling him. Oh, they're shooting towards each other again. So, like, I don't imagine there's a whole lot of space in between them right now, because Grimm was choking, and then Oro was like, I light myself on fire, and Grimm was like, ow! But they're probably still standing right in front of each other. But then it still says, then he shot toward him in a streak of fire, and I just imagine that being like, and they just smack together, because they were like a foot apart. The boys are fighting again. That's all these boys know how to do, is be stressed about Isla and fight with each other. They are teenagers. These are not grown men, and certainly not men who've lived 500 years. These are hormonal, irrational 15-year-olds. Oro sat up and unleashed a beam of energy from his chest that was so saturated, it went right through all Grimm's shadows. So saturated? Also, Oro be shooting beams out of his chest now. I guess he's a Care Bear. He shoots forward. Apparently, I needed to put that on the bingo card. Next time, help me remember. Characters shooting towards each other is definitely an integral part of every Alex Aster fight. The only way that Aster knows about fighting is through, like, probably anime and, like, Marvel movies and stuff. Those are the only battles she has cared to check out. And so, like, anything remotely involving, like, accuracy of any kind in a fight, or how to write them. I don't know if she reads many books that have battles in them, because, like, she's probably just reading Twilight over and over again. I know, shade, she's never gonna watch this. I don't think she reads books that have fights in them either, or if she does, it's ones that don't have good fights in them, because she has no idea how to write a fight. And by the way, I'm not talking out of my ass either. I'm pretty good at writing fights. Am I the best in the world? Fuck no. I don't even know who is the best in the world. But I'm pretty good at it. It gives me a leg to stand on when I'm dealing with this as the other example. Up, we got some bone-melting despair. A lot of people's bones melt when they have emotions in these books. Apparently I needed to put that on the bingo card. That one's newer. The bone melting, it's recent. A recent Alex-ism. But they stop fighting because suddenly they can't feel Isla anymore. Like, I guess they still had some tenuous connection to her that they didn't realize they could feel until they couldn't anymore. And that's the end of the chapter. And then we're with Oro, I guess. So we'll find more about that. And we're back for chapter 19 with Oro. Of course, we have to start out this chapter with Oro thinking about Isla and what a blessing she was to his boring, unfulfilled life. It's all stuff we've heard before. It's getting repetitive. Like, there's only so many ways that Alex Aster can have these boys gush about Isla before she's used them all, and we're repeating ourselves now. Grimm is, of course, losing his goddamn mind, what little he had, because they can't feel Isla anymore. He's literally thrashing on the ground like a toddler having a temper tantrum. Pulling up sand and throwing it and just, oh my god, man. There's not enough therapy in the world. I would say go to therapy, but it would take teams of therapists working together, years to deal with this man. Oro goes over and slaps him in the face like he's a woman from the 50s being hysterical.
Calm down. Get a hold of yourself.
Having slapped Grimm, Oro is like, hey, yo, remember how you guys are connected? And if she died, you would also be dead? They're like, oh yeah. We have to take a moment, though, to be like, I know Oro's being the strong one right now, but he's also equally devastated just on the inside. We have to understand how just destroyed these men are by this woman being missing. If Isla was gone for good, these two dudes would have to rebuild their entire personalities from scratch. Then Oro casually just makes the tide fully come in, because he thinks about Isla. It's like, I was never the strongest moonling, but I love Isla a whole lot, so I'll just make the tide come in. I feel like we wasted a lot of time watching both of these boys have a dumb fight, only for him to just do the thing. I feel like we could have skipped those bits and just done the thing, and we would have missed nothing. Like, these boys have already had fights. They've already mourned over Isla. Also, I don't think Aster understands how tides work, because normally, we would expect pools to form. When the tide goes out, they're called tide pools. Fun fact, they're full of all kinds of delightful creatures. But instead, the pools are forming when the tide comes in. Now, this is another dimension, so maybe things are different, but I just don't think also that Aster knows how tides work. So they find the right pool, and it says that was their portal. Great, good. Glad that wasn't hard. The hardest part about this whole quest has been that Grimm and Oro keep punching each other for no reason. Grimm just jumps into the pool, which I imagine to be about the size of a puddle. So I'm just picturing him like a little kid jumping into a puddle. But it doesn't work. Grimm's powers aren't enough. I thought we found something that would amplify powers. Am I wrong? Did I misunderstand a previous MacGuffin? It has been a few weeks since I've been reading this, so maybe I just don't remember correctly, but I could have sworn that one of the things that they found from the drowned king was an item that made Grimm's powers more powerful. But anyway, this ends with, she needed him to find a way to make this pool into a portal. Boy, man, mark those lines down as some of the most powerful words ever written, let me tell ya. We're gonna go on to Isla's chapter, which is 2 pages long. Right, Isla. 2 pages. Wow. Ah, yes, we're meeting Cronin the Barbarian, Cronin Malvere. His voice flat and resonant. Can a sound be flat and resonant at the same time? Like, I suppose, like, if it's music, it can be flat and resonant at the same time, but usually when you're talking about dialogue, flat kind of means the opposite of resonant, but am I overthinking it? Probably. Apparently he reduced this part of the forest to ashes because as he's walking, the ashes like part around him. Isla thinks he was something older, more formidable, inevitable. We gotta get that inevitable in there. Like, what are we doing? Boy, a lot of things are getting shredded in this book except Isla's clothes. We are shredding things, but Lark sees Cronin and she just goes for him. And he flicks his wrist and she's shredded. Whatever that means, I assume she just becomes pasta noodles or cheese, just like... So she gets turned into hamburger meat. We'll see how long it takes her to reconstitute from hamburger meat. Isla's like, hey, I was supposed to kill her because I have the power to absorb other people's powers if I kill them. So I was supposed to kill her. I'm sure she's going to reconstitute, honey. She always does. If this just means that Lark is just gone now, I'm going to be so... mad is the wrong word. I'm just going to be shaking my head again in disappointment at Aster because she keeps doing stuff for no reason. Okay, good. She is reconstituting. Boy, I will never get over how just sort of impactful and beautifully written the action scenes are. Like, for example, she knew it was useless to take her stance, to raise her own sword, to draw upon the energy of the incoming storm and surround herself with all her abilities, to unleash the blizzards and hurricanes contained in her orb, to wrap herself in rings of stars and fire and shadow and ice. But she did. So she just, goes full, Avatar state to fight Cronin. I would like to point out also that she has presumably unleashed her storms from her orb. So if she still has more storms in this orb, I'm going to be calling that fake news. Cronin, of course, just beats her ass because he's an all-powerful god being. Although I'm sure Isla is probably technically more powerful than him in some way, and we'll find that out later. Then Cronin notices that she's wearing the MacGuffin necklace, and he calls it the World Key. Could have been the title of this book, actually. Maybe the final book is called World Key. And he laughs, and Isla passes out, or everything goes dark. We can presume she passed out. Oh, thank goodness, we are back with Isla in the next chapter. Thank goodness, because, like, what? We went back to the boys for both of them, so they could have another pointless fist fight. It's still a pretty short chapter, so we're just going to go on and read it. Let's go, Isla. Chapter 21. Okay, she was knocked unconscious. She wakes up on the floor of a circular room. The room is made of glass and domed, just like her snow globe back home that she lived in. And when she looks up, the planets and stuff have been forced into the shape of a crown. We got poison and antidote again. We love that imagery. If Cronin was the poison, the storms were the antidotes. Okay, I guess. Say it with me, that might as well happen. Like, why are storms? What are we doing with the theme of storms as like a cure for Cronin sucking all the magic out of the world? Okay, I mean, I guess life comes after a storm. Is that what we're doing? Storms weren't a thing for the first 2 books at least. She thinks about how much he looks like Grimm, and it says Grimm was beautiful like a god, and so was his ancestor. What do gods look like? I guess they look like Grimm. We never see any depictions of gods in the other books, but I guess they look like Grimm. There's something going on with his crown. She feels weirdly drawn to it, just like she felt weirdly drawn to those knights that attacked her for a hot minute. This is probably her dark half, you know, because she's half light and half dark. Her dark half is probably, like, drawn to the void. He's doing the villain thing where he's like, I could kill you, but you're more useful to me alive. They all do that. They're all just like, I need you alive for some contrived reason. Hers, I think, is because he can't take the life alert necklace off of her. Like, she's the only one who can use it or something. I don't know, but he needs her alive because of the diamond. She likes the idea of a vice on people's bones. He had a vice on her blood and bones. Okay. Even he's got to glaze her a little bit, though. He says, I know the world you came from. I helped create it. So I know that it has never produced someone as powerful as you. You who wields abilities from all 6 realms, who consumes the very soul of everyone you have killed, whose heart is fused together by the seed of power we use to make the island. So even he's got to be like, goddamn, you are one powerful bitch. I just have to tell you that now. He's also doing the bad guy. I see some of myself in you. There's darkness in you, Luke Skywalker. Now he's like, join me. And she's like, never. So she thinks about her boys, basically, and like puts up a wall in her mind so that Cronin can't get in there. And it says, because even if her powers weren't strong enough, her love for them was infinite. So Cronin needs to control her mind to make her his automaton, and of course, she's using her sheer force of superior will and the heterosexual love of 2 boys to, you know, stave off the evil. But then Isla's like, wait, what if Cronin reads my mind just enough to realize about my 2 boys? I would do anything for them, and I'd have to obey his wishes. I have to make sure that he never finds out about my boys. So I guess this is an ability that Isla just has. She thinks about the invisible threads that bind her to Grimm and Oro, and then she just severs them. That's the end, and she severed them is the final line of this chapter. So I guess that's just a thing. I mean, she kind of did that with Grimm in one of the other books, so maybe that has like precedent, but it's so odd that you could just decide to do that, because there's this big theme of like, don't fall in love, don't fall in love. It grants someone access to your powers, don't fall in love. But if you could just cut that off, why is everyone so worried about it? Like, is this an Isla only ability? There's so many rules to this magic that you just keep getting retconned. Like, maybe only Isla can cut off her connection to other people? I don't know, but that's what she does, and that's why the boys, like, can't sense her, and they, like, lose her, and they freak out and punch each other and stuff. If only she knew how utterly stupid her boys were being. If only she knew how many times they have gotten into teenage fistfight brawls over her. Embarrassing. Quite frankly, embarrassing, boys. Need to be taken in front of the principal. Anyway, I'm going to stop now. I'll see y'all for the next chapters when I get to them. Hello, we are back. It has once again been like a week since I read this thing, but I just needed to get into it, and I've already annoyed Nigel because he was sleeping on this chair, and I made him move over, so he's now next to me, not taking over the entire chair, and he's mad about it. I'm mad because we're about to read from Grimm's point of view again, and we all know how I feel about Grimm. Isla just cut off her thread of emotion from the boys, which is a thing that I guess she can do. And Grimm is, of course, having the expected absolute freak out and meltdown. These boys have nothing without her. Like, no personality, no goals, no hopes, no dreams, no life. This is so unhealthy. It's so unhealthy. This has gone beyond like wish fulfillment and into like, oh my god, please someone help this man territory. So Grimm is like, Isla must have figured out a way to sever our connection. And I thought that we knew that she could do that. Like, I had forgotten about it, but then I remember in one of the books, I want to say the second one, there was a plan for her to cut the thread between her and Grimm to like catch him by surprise. I'm certainly not going to go back and look at it, but you can feel free to let me know in the comments whether I am remembering correctly. But now they're acting like this is a new skill that she has, that they're not terribly surprised that she has, because she's Isla and she can do anything. But he's like, and I know that Isla would be doing this to protect me somehow. But protect me from what? So Grimm, of course, freaks out and explodes shadows everywhere, and then it says his power was ripped back into him. And I've read that 3 times before I, like, understood what it was supposed to mean. Ripped back into him. Ripping, by nature of it, is a pulling away. Some of her word choices are so odd. Also, it says he would need it. The next line is he would need it, which makes it sound like he made a choice to recall his powers. But the phrasing of his power was ripped back into him makes it sound like it was involuntary. So not only is it contradictory in the sentence itself, but the next sentence makes it even more confusing. Here's a small thing that we can watch out for in our own writing. I don't expect Aster to do so because she's quite bad at this. But the waves seemed as restless and angry as he felt. Did they seem it? The waves were as restless and angry as he felt. The waves were as restless and angry as he. Just ditch that seemed and let these things be the way that they are. Of course, this was a little bit gay for the boys. Grimm couldn't tell where Oro's emotions began and his ended. Ooh. They were both heavy with trench-deep despair. Well, I guess it's not bone-melting despair, so that's a nice change of pace. Trench-deep. You know, trenches come in a variety of depths, so that doesn't actually mean all that much. I wonder if this is just going to be what the boys do the entire book. So they had recently gotten into another fight with each other, because they're teenagers. Or I was like, we really need to stop like fighting with each other. It's not helping anything. And this is, I think, the second time that they've learned that they need to work together. Aster loves a repetition. She doesn't really know how to take one arc through an entire story. So she just does the same small arc over and over again. And I feel like these boys are going to have conflict, punch each other, and then learn that they have to work together over and over and over again, probably. He thinks about Oro as a ruler whose entire being revolved around a woman who was worlds away. That is not healthy, and if I was living in this world, I would be deeply upset to find out that the guy in charge of all of our lives was that hugely invested in one woman who was not even here anymore. So once again, they have a moment where Oro apologizes to Grimm. I think he's already done this once before. He's like, I'm sorry that I blamed you for the curses. And we still are just not going to find out why he blamed him. But then Grimm's like, I'm sorry for all of the bad things that I did to you. And Oro's like, no, you're not. And Grimm just shrugs a single shoulder. And the chapter ends with the boys once again deciding to have a truce, which they have definitely decided to do before and then just went back on. So I have a feeling this is going to happen at least one more time. But then Grimm's like, I'm going back to Nightshade to see if I can find any MacGuffins there, basically. And he teleports out, and that's the end of that chapter. So we learn really nothing new. We do nothing that we haven't done before. Chapter was just filler and nothing else. Let's find out what Oro's up to. I mean, why not? Might as well, really. Here's another thing that you can, again, look out for. Same with the seemed that we talked about before. Little words that make your writing less skillful, hold the reader at arm's length. Oro was pacing back and forth in his throne room. Oro paced back and forth in his throne room. We don't need the was. Look for places where you can eliminate was. It's another one of those crutch words that a lot of us don't realize we have until we go back through it. You can cut out that was and make your sentences flow much better. So Oro is looking at the threads, I believe the MacGuffin that the dead king gave them, I think is what that is, if I remember correctly. There's so many things. Also, threads seem like a really bad MacGuffin because it feels like they'd be super easy to lose. Just like little pieces of thread. So Oro's just fiddling with the threads, and it says, his finger caught on one of the threads, causing it to unravel. He made to push it back in. push what back in where? If a thread unravels, it's not like a piece is like sticking out of it. It just like unwinds and you would twist it back together. I don't know. Has Alex Esther never seen thread? At this point, nothing would surprise me. But then he starts hearing voices. At first I thought it was going to be coming from the threads, but no, he just ravels and unravels the threads, and then some people show up. Their clothing was a style he'd never seen before, the glistening fabrics whispering against the floor and flowing behind them like liquid gold. This would mean a whole heck of a lot more if we knew anything about the styles that are common now. Like, what styles has he seen before? Why would he have not seen flowing gold fabric before? But of course, the people pass right through him, so these are threads of memory, apparently, would be my guess. But then a memory of Horace Ray, the ancestor of Oro, strides into the room. Oro does not wait to see this play out. He hastily starts unraveling more threads. Like, wait and find out if this is like a whole scene that's going to play out before you start activating more threads, dude. So basically we get a sci-fi moment in a fantasy book where a whole bunch of different time periods start to play out around him as he's unraveling the threads, and then he pauses that by stopping his unraveling. So it's like if he's got a remote control and he's seeing like a bunch of like holographic screens or scene play out and he hits pause. But then Enya interrupts his memory viewing. We haven't had as much Enya, so I'm really starting to wonder if we're going to get her I will not die today thing. The friends of Oro have really not been in this book that much and have not been terribly important in it. I just think that Astor struggles with handling multiple characters at a time, first of all, and second of all, like, what she doesn't know what to do with them. He basically says, I have just seen through time with this thread, and Enya's like, that's weird. Anyway, like, she's so used to weird bullshit that this does not even faze her. Enya is his gay friend who exists to be, like, the calming force. You know, first of all, she's a woman, and you know how women are so good at like, being the emotional anchor for emotionally unstable men. But also she's a lesbian, so, you know, she's covering both of those bases of the gay friend and the woman who's there to be emotionally stable on behalf of the man. So Oro starts to break down because Isla's missing, of course, and Enya's, you know, being very comforting and being like, oh, buddy, I'm here for you. I'll never let you down. So Enya finally gets around to being like, hey, what did you see in those magical threads that I'm totally not going to ask any further questions about? And he was like, oh, I saw my parents and I saw my ancestor Horace. And she's like, well, Horace has clearly got to be the key because he's like the third member of the trio. You know, we got Lark, we got Cronin, and then there's Horace. And Oro's like, well, Horace is dead. And I'm like, is he? Are you sure? Because we kind of thought the other two were dead and they're not. So is he going to be the only dead one?
Really makes me wonder if this is foreshadowing, whether purposeful or accidental, that Oro is the one who's going to die eventually, because the Sunling guy is the only one who's dead.
And he's like, he could still be useful even though he's dead. And the chapter ends with Oro sitting down on his throne to play more with the magic threads. And that's the end of that chapter. Just, you know, sort of plot points handing themselves to characters as needed. You know, the usual. And we're back with Isla, and I'm going to try to get through Isla's chapter, and then I'm going to be done for the day. They're nice short chapters, at least. I just wanted to get through a rotation of the three. But Isla's been thrown into a cell, I guess. Sure, why not? Apparently she's been thrown in a cell with Lark. Why is Lark even still alive? I guess because she can't be killed, but, like, why is she still here? Why not just yeet her back out into the wilderness, you know? Cronin doesn't need her. So Isla figures as long as I'm stuck in here with Lark, we might as well talk about her love life, I guess. So she's like, I know that you and Cronin used to be a thing. What happened with that? Basically, they're just talking about how life and death are intrinsically linked, you know, the theme of Isla just as a person. And she's like, oh, I used to be with Horace first, but Horace was, like, too much of a dreamer, and, like, he wanted to create things, but I was interested in death. And that's how I got together with Cronin, who was way more edgy and cool. The way this is written is really difficult to parse. So I might be interpreting this wrong, just because it is very poorly written. But it sounds like the Lightlark dimension used to be a prison dimension, and they transformed it and gave it new life. If I'm understanding this correctly, I just have more questions, but...
And those questions will go unanswered because it was never mentioned again, so I have no idea if I was right or if I completely misunderstood what was happening.
And of course, ultimately, Lark is unhelpful. Isla, she's like, yeah, we created Light Lark, and also now I'm focusing on the diamond around your neck, and you have no idea, like, what kind of power that diamond has. And Isla's like, well, you could tell me. And Lark is like, LOL, no. And that's how we end the scene. The scene and the chapter. Both over with, and then we're back to Grimmy Boy. But that's a later Julian problem. Hello, it is morning time. The ferrets are loose, and I'm gonna record, like, a chapter, probably. Unless it's, like, really, really short, which it might be, because we're doing this thing with really short... Just quick, yeah, it's like 2 pages long. So I might do Grimm and Oro's chapters. We are just treading water at this point. I feel like she has no idea what to do. Like, she has now started the story and doesn't know what to do with it. So we're having a lot of really repetitive feeling scenes, really pointless feeling scenes, really just being reminded over and over again that the boys miss Isla. Isla's just being imprisoned again. She's always being imprisoned. This girl, she gets imprisoned and killed as a hobby. But we're chapter 25, we're back with Grimm. I do not remember this at all. His wife had spent months trying to open the portal before she succeeded. Did she? Because I felt like in that book she mostly just lucked into the portal opening. And the rest of the time she was off doing stupid side quests that had nothing to do with anything. And didn't she spend a considerable amount of time as a vigilante? Like, this makes it sound like she focused and, like, was like, I'm gonna open this portal. When in reality, I definitely recall that it was really more just dumb luck that she happened to open the portal. But yeah, apparently Grimm thinks that she was, like, working hard for months. Also, him always thinking of Isla as his wife. Oh my god, cringe. Cringy wife guy alert.
My wife, my wife, my wife, my wife, my wife, my wife, my wife.
He finds the book that Isla had, the one that had previously had a demon in it. But obviously Isla got rid of the demon. You recall that very, very stupid scene. Boy, ferrets are pooping all over my house right now. I'm gonna have to do a really thorough poop check at the end of their outside time. Again, Grimm is thinking about turning something to ash. He gets frustrated with the book because, you know, it's enchanted. And he thinks about turning it and the rest of the library to ash. And I'm like, you're not the fire guy. You don't turn things to ash. Why do you think you could turn things to ash? Does Shadow burn things now? Like, sometimes I feel like she forgets which character's point of view she's writing in. So he goes to hassle the augur because he's retracing Isla's steps. He's going to spend a lot of time running around cities if he does that. But he goes to visit the augur, and of course, like, he just goes straight to, like, pinning him against a wall with shadows and demanding answers because Grimm has never met diplomacy. He doesn't know what that is. He thinks it's something that only happens to other people. I love all of these in-depth character moments that she puts in these books. So the augur says, it was you. She would never have had to leave if she had never met you. The creature's words knocked the breath from him. Was he right? Grimm worked his jaw. That didn't matter now. What mattered was getting her back. Oh, thank God he didn't sit with that emotion for more than a line. First of all, we have toward and toward in the same sentence. I wonder, if you knew you were hurtling toward your doom, would you still run so quickly toward the abyss? Says the augur. Grimm thinks, Grimm didn't have time for these riddles. That's a riddle? That's what you think a riddle looks like, is it? Okay, yep. Grimm thinks about how Oro having a moral compass will mean that he never loves Isla as much as Grimm does. Because you can't have morality and love somebody fully. Like, to love somebody fully, you have to abandon everything else. Any shreds of personality you had, any morality you may have had, anything. I'm so thrilled that Grimm is probably endgame with this attitude that is so toxic and so dangerous. Like, he's basically saying, fuck morality, fuck, having a moral compass of any kind. I don't need it. I've abandoned it to make room for more obsession over Isla. My husband has a really strong moral compass, and that's one of the things that I really, really like about him. If he was like, yeah, I've abandoned my moral compass to make room for more worshipping of you, I don't think I would be attracted to him anymore. New power just dropped, and new character just dropped. So the augur is like, when you go to the place where Cronin lives, all your powers will be taken away because Cronin is basically the void and he sucks away your powers. But I can give you a powerful Skyer. You remember the rune tattoos that people can have that Isla was obsessed with for a book? I can give you a powerful Skyer that will prevent that from happening. And Grimm is like, well, did you give it to Isla? No, I did not give it to Isla. Why didn't you give it to Isla? I'll break your stupid flimsy neck. I didn't give it to Isla because I didn't know about it. I only found out about it recently from the Silver Girl. Who the fuck is the Silver? We're just going to keep adding characters, is what we're going to keep doing. Whenever we have something that doesn't have an explanation, we're just going to throw a different... There was a king under the sea. Now there's a Silver Girl. Okay, that might as well happen. Even the Augur, who is pinned to the wall with shadows, manages to lift a single shoulder. But now he has this new rune, and he's going to go use the special feather to rune it onto himself. And then he just needs to figure out how to get to where Isla is. Once again, we are sort of backfilling this quest, because Grimm and Oro don't really know what they need for the quest, except for to get there, to get to where Isla is. So Grimm had no idea that he would even be robbed of his powers when he got there if he hadn't have just so happened to decide to go talk to the Augur, and the Augur just so happened to know this information, and also had a solution to it, very, very conveniently. This is not how you write a quest. The characters need to come up with the things that they need for the quest, and they need to seek out those things. We are, like I said, we are backfilling. We're deciding what we need, and then the author is just like giving it to the characters almost sort of retroactively. They don't even find out that they need it. The author just knows that they need it. They don't know that they need it until it's handed to them. And that does not make an engaging read for your quest. But that was Grimm's chapter. Maybe he's a little bit closer to actually doing something. Because now I'm like, why are we following the boys? They're just doing fuck all. They need to join Isla in her top secret world now. Anyway, on to the next chapter. I'll probably read that one at least and then be done. And we're back with Oro. Let's go, Oro. I guess Oro is watching memory TV. Oh no, Alex thinks she's being deep. Uh-oh. The Lost King was right. The past informed the future. He started to notice cycles that always repeated. So many events were entirely predictable. How could people have not seen it while they were living it? How had he been so blind to the obvious? Oh dear, Alex thinks she's being deep. I think she thinks she's saying something about the state of at least the United States right now. Here's the thing. Lots of people did and do notice the similarities and the cycles. But we don't talk to anyone besides Oro's very close friends and Grimm. So, like, if anybody else did notice the cycles, we didn't bother to listen to them, and apparently Oro and his friends are too dumb, or blind, or rich to notice. So, once again, it's giving rich, oblivious person. I just can't shake that feeling when I read Aster's work of how oblivious she feels to normal people. I just had this certainty that even if certain people, possibly people who are in charge of us right now, sat down and watched a magical slideshow of the past, they would still refuse to see how everything's just repeating itself. So, there's no helping some people, honestly. Also, apparently history books don't exist because Oro is like, this was the ultimate knowledge. I'm like, okay, so nobody ever wrote anything down. Like, you couldn't read and study and find the patterns. You had to watch a presentation, a magical presentation of the past. Also, it's very glossed over right now. There are cycles to everything. There's so much to notice. He's getting the ultimate knowledge, but we don't actually know yet what he's getting. Also, where did these threads come from? How were they made? Why did we stop making them? Who made them? Why did the king have them? Shut up, Julian. We're probably actually not going to find out about all of the, like, deep knowledge that Oro is gaining because he's really trying to focus on figuring out if anybody in the past knew about portals. So it's like he's seeing everything for the first time. There are cycles to everything, and how did we not notice? But we don't find out what those actually are. And now we're just like, but he was focusing on trying to find out about portals.
Now you're thinking with portals.
But Oro gets snapped out of his watching trance by his friends. And it said, Zed shot forward in frustration. What does that look like? His friends are just standing there and all of a sudden Zed, like, smacks, like, does he smack first into Oro? Once again, we have another this might as well happen moment where his friends are like, actually, the threads are killing you. And Oro looks down at his arm and he's, like, sliced open. And somehow they know this. And I don't know why this is a thing, but it wasn't a thing until now. It's so frustrating how random everything is and how nothing ties together. But apparently, Enya says, the threads had woven into your veins. You were there too long. We had to pull them out. What the fuck? Like, how does he go from winding and unwinding little threads between his fingers to them having woven themselves into his veins, and his friends believing the only option was to cut them out of his body?
I cannot help but get the impression that Astra thinks that storytelling is just a series of loosely connected scenes or events, where yes, they are connected by them happening to the same characters, but otherwise it doesn't really matter if they connect to each other. It feels like she brainstorms ideas about what events could potentially happen and then never really bothers to tie them together. She just puts them all one after the other, happening to existing characters.
So Oro turns to his friends and he says, the things I've seen, you have no idea, the knowledge. And Enya just says, we don't care what you've seen, Oro. We don't care what you think you know, because you're almost bested by a few pieces of damn string. So his friends are like, yeah, I don't care about this, like, great knowledge that you've gained that apparently we had never written down about our society. Don't give us any info. Astra's doing a really bad job at trying to have, like, Oro was obsessed by this magical item. He was almost taken over by it. Oh, it's so bad. And I'm like, yeah, but why, though? Why are we doing this in the middle of this book? Why did we have to make this string something that he, like, briefly got obsessed with? I bet it's not going to be a thing. His string addiction is not going to be coming up again.
But you're right. And when you're right, you're right.
Now Enya shot forward. Everybody's shooting forward. Also, and once again, I don't think this is intentional, but it's not there. So Astra has given Oro the ability to see the past, what happened in the past, and learn how to not repeat patterns, how to recognize the patterns, how to stop bad things from happening now because of the past. And it's being framed as a bad thing. He's addicted to the knowledge. Knowledge is bad. And Oro can't turn away from it. And now he's attacking his friends because he wants to go back into the world of the magic string and keep seeing the past. And I'm like, Astra, are you trying to, like, I don't think she's trying to say this. I don't think she thought about it that hard. But it definitely sounds like she's saying that you can have too much knowledge about the past. And if you focus too much on it, then you're just obsessed. So even though it could be really helpful, maybe we shouldn't pay attention to it, actually, because, well, you're just obsessed with learning about the past. Like, first of all, it's called a special interest, Alex Astor. And second of all, what? This whole idea of, like, knowledge is evil, actually. You shouldn't gain knowledge. You'll become obsessed with being more educated. We don't want that. You know, if Astor was a little bit more obsessed with being more educated, she would be a better writer. I know I'm shading her way more than I shade most of the other authors that I talk about, but this girl is driving me insane. She has written something that is barely readable. I'm calling this barely readable. I can barely follow, and I read a lot of books, and I'm an editor, and I know my reading comprehension is extremely high. And trying to read this is like trying to parse something that's like, yes, in English and technically words, but the words are barely put together in a way that even slightly makes a story or a plot. So yeah, I'm gonna shade her because she's wildly successful with this. It just drives me crazy. Maybe it's just because I focus so hard on trying to continue to always be leveling up my writing, always become a better writer, never stop growing. And then there's this. Thank goodness, though, this whole Oro is addicted to the threads is over by the end of the chapter. His friends just, like, smack some sense into him, and he's like, oh, I see now that I was addicted to them, and I will not do that again, I'm sorry. Like, thank goodness we resolved that immediately. And then we're back to Isla, so, well, I hated that chapter. Knowing things is bad, and you shouldn't know too many things, or you're addicted to knowing things. Like I said, I don't think she was trying to have that message, because that would require her to be thoughtful. But it's also an unintended message, I'm pretty sure, and those are still present in your stories. But hey, here's a ferret. Here's a ferret. Favorite for you. This chai. You can tell. Cause she chunky. Chunky chai. Chunky. I'll see you for the next chapter when I see you, if I have any brain cells left. I am cursed with the knowledge of this book. Hello, it is the next morning, which is why my hair looks like this. My hair is at that unfortunate length where it is basically impossible to get it to behave. So, we're back with Isla. I'm just going to read Isla's chapter today, and then be done because I have too much to do today, but I really need to make progress in this thing because these are really fast becoming the only videos that anybody likes from my channel, so I gotta get them out. But we're back with Isla. She's in the prison, as is her way. So Isla has been periodically being interrogated by Cronin, who uses his shadows to like stab into her mind. But don't you worry, she has a really, really strong mental wall up. Every single one of these books, I feel like, tries to take something from a different book that is popular right now, and that whole mental wall thing is totally from Silver Elite. If you want to check out my read-along of that, I have it here on the channel. When the Silly Dragon book became popular, all of a sudden Isla had a dragon. There were elements of, I want to say, powerless in the previous books. Like, it just does seem to me like Aster just looks around at what's popular and throws it into her book. So now Isla is being brain interrogated, but she's got a super strong mental wall up, which we've never seen her practice or need. We're supposed to feel very sorry for Isla because she's just basically reduced to like a shell of a person from being all tortured all the time. But I do not care about this girl. She's gonna be fine. She's basically a god. She's just having a little bit of an off day.
You get killed, walk it off.
He's probing around in her head, and it says that it was worse than any physical torture, worse than the arrow through the heart, worse than the burning flesh, worse than being stabbed or starved beneath the ground. So there's just a little reminder of all of the things that Isla has already had happen to her, and she's been fine. And here we are again, stealing notes from Silver Elite. She decides that she's not going to be able to keep him out forever, but she can choose what to show him, which is exactly what happens in Silver Elite. But it turns out Cronin, this is an original thing, unlike Silver Elite, Cronin can also reshape her memories. So she feeds him the memory of when Tara was torturing her with the swords and then buried her in the forest or whatever. But Cronin changes it so that Isla grabs the swords and cuts Tara's head off. Oh boy, we got a lot of ellipses on this page. So many ellipses. I am not one who's opposed to the use of things like ellipses and italics and stuff like that, but you have to use them sparingly. If you use them too often, they lose their meaning and the reader just starts to gloss right past them. He convinces her that her subjects despise her. I don't know how convincing he has to be because she thinks he's right. Everyone does hate me. And I legitimately can't tell because Isla is such a shallow character. I can't tell if that's him convincing her with his powers or whether she actually does think that and she agrees with him. Now we're just going through memories of Isla and Celeste and how they were friends, which I will say is more that we've gotten about their friendship than any other book, honestly. But there's nothing really interesting here. I'm still surprised, we're watching the scene where Isla confesses to Celeste that she doesn't have any power. I'm still surprised that none of the other rulers or anybody ever noticed the shade maid that Isla was apparently, supposedly, covered in. You know, she had shade maid jewelry, she had shade maid clothing, she had shade maid in her food, but nobody, Celeste was just braiding Isla's hair, and she never went, wow, when I'm around you, my powers don't feel as strong. Nobody ever caught on to that, huh? Everybody just goes, ah, yes, she's hiding her powers. And Cronin's like, ah, yes, you learned a valuable lesson. Anything can be broken, especially friendships. And I'm like, well, it's a good thing Isla doesn't have any friends then. So, of course, Isla begins to doubt herself and totally believe that she's a horrible, horrible murderer who doesn't deserve life or friends. When all of a sudden, the Silver Girl, who's a character in this book all randomly, we don't know why, comes into her mind and says, when you start to doubt yourself, I want you to picture a pool reflecting every moment that you were brave, every moment that you fought when it was easier to give up. And then it says, and Isla did. So, as I suspected while I was reading this, she's having problems, she will easily get over these issues within the same chapter. This is not like an ongoing thing that's going to trouble her for long. Because all Isla has to do is remember that she's awesome. Just give her a second and be like, oh yeah, no, never mind, I'm the best, and just carry on. But so she decides that she is strong, and she says, I've been caged my entire life. I have been used and manipulated and lied to. You will not be the one to break me. So yeah, she just had to remember what a badass she was, and then she can go on about her day. And Cronin cannot break her will. No indication whether Cronin's manipulation of her memories is permanent. I'm gonna guess not. Moraine is here to bite my ankles. Yes, she is. The bitey one. She bitey. But that's the end of that chapter, so we are still in the same place as we were. Good. Great.
So, I was last night listening to the SBU, I think it is, English Club, and the other YouTubers that were covering this book. And they were talking about how they had gotten to meet Alex Astor and at a convention. And they said that when they were not shaking her hand, they were watching her on stage cry about deadlines. Go watch their video. I will try to remember to put it in the doobly-doo. If I forget, please remind me, because I am very forgetful. So I didn't do it out of malice. I'm just very forgetful. Anyway, but she has apparently talked about how she is just crushed by deadlines all the time. She's imprisoned by deadlines. She hasn't seen her friends, her family, whatever. And that does explain a lot of what a disaster this book is. Like, I would never say she was a good writer to begin with, but like, she has no room to grow her skill if she's under these incredibly restrictive deadlines. So while I will continue to shade her because she is not good at this writing thing, she can't get good because the publishing industry is publishing industrying, and it's like, we don't care about quality, give us quantity, girl. We want books, books, books. A lot to blame for the condition that this book is in is her publishers, and they should also feel ashamed of themselves, because what is this? You might be looking at Alex Astor and being like, oh, she's got the dream life, she's publishing the books she wants, she's rich, all that stuff, but she's not publishing good books, and then her deadlines are extreme and severe. And I think she knows that she's not good enough, that if she asked for a break, they would say no, because they are not looking to her for quality. They are looking to her for quantity. So if she said, I need a break, they would be like, well, we can find somebody else to write this slop. Like, we don't need you. So I think she senses that. So she's stuck if she wants to keep writing the way she has been. And this is why I'm not saying that, like, trad pub is not something that you should get into. You can if you want to. You will probably not end up in the situation that she is in. It's a fairly unusual situation. Most people who trad pub just, stay in the mid-list and don't get this insanity. But let me just say that this is something I never ever have to worry about here in self-publishing. I can take however long I damn well please on a book. If I feel like it's not good enough and I need to level it up, I can level it up. I have time. I set my own deadlines. And just hearing about how miserable she is makes me happier that that's the case.
Grimm's chapter is literally a page long. It is a single page. Why are we doing this? Oh my god. This is so goofy. It's so goofy. This reads like a tweet. Okay? This reads like a random post. If Grimm had a Skyer, it would be an infinity symbol. You legitimately wrote that in your actual novel. That's something you tweet about. I cannot with this author. I simply cannot. Alex Astor, I was looking at their name on the spine as though we were talking. Like, Alex, you have to be trolling us at this point. She has to be. She simply has to be. Nobody is this bad at writing novels. All right, this is, I think, the third time, it might be more, that a character, not always Grimm, sometimes it's Oro, mentions how their life previously had been a winter and Isla is the spring or the summer or the sun or something like that. A character saying that once, okay, but multiple characters saying it at least 3 times in this book, possibly more. Like I said, I just clocked it 3 times. Somebody stop Alex, please. So in case you're wondering what this page of a chapter is about, we're getting an overview. We are getting a summary of Grimm mostly thinking about Isla. It's mostly Grimm thinking about Isla, but he's also going around and looking for Skyers. And he's going to places Isla went to find Skyers, and he's like having memories of her in all those places, but we don't see him having the memories. We're just told everywhere he went reminded him of her. And then we go back to the talking about how amazing she was. So it's just a page of that. I don't know why we checked in with Grimm. We have learned nothing new. We have gained nothing. It just ends with him thinking about how they're infinite. And that's it. That's the whole thing. So we're going to go on to the next chapter right away. I'm not even going to stop because, like I said, that was a page. Chapter 29, we're back with Isla, and she at least gets 3 pages. So we're back with Cronin and Isla. She has reinforced her mental wall, so now he can't get in again. I do not hate this mental image. Astor is pretty universally bad at creating mental images, but like this one is okay. His shadows were like knives peeling fruit of its skin. She's describing how he's like picking away at her like mental barrier. And I don't hate that. That was actually a good one. I need to point out every now and then, like, you know, a broken clock is right twice a day. You write enough words, you're bound to write something clever eventually. So I'm pretty sure last time she was in this scenario, she thought about the boys and like was able to rally. I don't remember, it's been a couple days. But now she thinks about the boys in order to rally. And this time Cronin like latches onto that. And he's like, aha, I found a thing, your weakness. So we have the same mind reading problem that we had in Silver Elite, where a character is reading another character's mind, but the character who is having their mind read is still able to have thoughts that are separate from the thoughts that are being read somehow, and like when and how are those thoughts had and separated? I don't know. Cronin speaks almost entirely in ellipses, by the way, which is great. So we're basically getting a repeat of the previous scene where she tries to feed Cronin certain memories. I'm going to start calling him Conan at some point. It's going to happen. She feeds Cronin certain memories, but she accidentally this time lets him into memories of her boys, and he gives her a vision of her ripping out and eating Oro's heart. And I'm like, this is fine and all, but like, what are we gaining from this? Are we gaining anything? He's saying all the villain lines we've already heard over and over again. Like, we're hearing, we're just like each other, join me, blah, blah, blah. The exact same lines from previous scenes that we've had in this book, not to mention how cliche they are just to begin with. Have I got the authors checked out? Yep, Aster clearly checked out, already crossed off. But I can feel her checking out even harder in these chapters. She has no idea what to do with the middle of this book, so she's just repeating herself over and over again. So the chapter just ends with Cronin being like, aha, I know your weakness now, you're in love with two boys. And if they come to find you, I can take advantage of that, so great. Let's see, what time is it? How long is the next chapter? Oh, Oro's chapter's really short too. Why not? Why don't I just keep going? Why shouldn't I? They're just really short, really repetitive chapters. Back with Oro, the only character who I even slightly, maybe, sort of don't hate. Oro gets some rest, and he dreams about Isla at their beach like he often does, except for this time, she doesn't look happy to see him, and it says her hair was ragged. I'm not sure if hair can be ragged. Maybe it can, but usually it'd be something like her hair was messy, her hair was disheveled, her hair looked like a rat's nest, I don't know. Ragged is certainly a choice. Oro thinks that maybe this isn't just a regular dream and that he can actually communicate with Isla through his dreams, or that she's trying to communicate through his dreams, and I'm like, I don't know where he got this notion from. He's probably right because he's a main character, but he's just having a very vivid dream and he's like, ah, yes, this is how we're trying to communicate because we live in a magic world and magic things just happen. Whatever. Yep, they are actually communicating in his dream. So all he needed to do was go to sleep and she could magically communicate with him in his dream. How? Why? We have no idea. This scene mostly exists so he can gas up Isla in his dream, because she tells him what's going on, and she's like, Cronin's too strong, and he's just giving her a pep talk about how she is so amazing and she can overcome anything. I'm really skimming, because he's just glazing Isla, and it's so boring, and we already know he thinks all of these things about her, and it'd be one thing if this was the only pep talk in this book, or one of like a couple of pep talks that were spread out in this book. But this book is every other word is talking about how amazing these guys think Isla is. So, like, this means nothing. It's just another chapter of nothing. So at the end of this short chapter, after he's finished telling Isla that she's the best thing that ever lived, she's like, I need you to not come save me. And he's like, I can't promise you that. And that's the end of the chapter. Wow. What a delightful 3 completely pointless chapters those were. Aside from Oro randomly, and I do mean so randomly, discovering that he can totally talk to Isla this whole time in his dreams, nothing of importance happened. The scene with Grimm was basically just a repeat of scenes we've already had. The scene with Isla and Cronin was 100% just a repeat of scenes we've already had. So, yay. That was amazing, I have to say. Somebody get this author all the awards. Welcome back, everyone. We are back for more, because I can't look away. We'll probably, if these chapters keep being really short, I might read them. Well, the next one might be longer. Longer meaning like 5 to 7 pages, something like that. By the way, I'm sorry if the lighting is weird. The sun is doing strange things. There's lots of clouds. It's the middle of February in Wisconsin. I can't control it. Anyway, we're back with Grimm. Oh, joy. So Oro, as you recall, just found out that he could communicate with Isla in his dreams, and we cut to Grimm, who has also just so happened to have found that out.
Do you have something, a cowl or something you can put on?
Last we saw him, he was looking for Skyers, but we're abandoning that quest because the author just got the idea that maybe the boys could communicate in their dreams. You know, I'm a pantser. That is a discovery writer. That is somebody who writes by the seat of their pants. And this is, like, the worst example of, like, what people think books that are written by pantsers is like. You could just tell when she came up with a new idea and just throws it in the book without ever making sure that there's anything to support it, whether the plot supports it or not. So, like, she totally, I wholeheartedly believe with my entire being that she didn't come up with Isla can communicate with them in their dreams until the previous chapter, and then she's like, oh, Grimm could do that too, and now we're doing that. My question is, if the boys fall asleep at the same time, who does Isla go to? Is that like one of those tests, you know, where you have a dog and you try to figure out which owner it likes better? Is that what happens? Apparently he fell asleep wearing his armor, though, so that's great. This is one of the only times that we find out what Grimm is wearing, and it's a dream. He's wearing the outfit she bought him at the Algid, which I don't remember what that is, but I'm gonna assume it's like the sweater that she got him at the Christmas village? I don't. Oh, see, this is a blatant lie. Grimm thinks his wife cared about her people and his. Once again, these guys always putting ideas into Isla's head that we never actually see in her own. But also, if he believes that she cares about people, he believes that even though we know it's not true, then why would he be so eager to destroy everything on her behalf? Because if he destroys everything, then there won't be the people that she cares about. So basically she's having the same conversation with Grimm. Oh, I love you, I love you, I love you, but if you love me, don't come to find me. Same combo, slightly different flavor. Wow, this writing, so evocative. He knew her. He really, really knew her.
There you go. Poetry.
So they were, like, cuddling, and I'm trying to find the spot where they separated, but I can't find it. But now it says, I don't want to live by prophecies, he said, stepping closer. But they were, like, in each other's arms. So how's he stepping closer? Apparently Grimm thinks that only he and Isla have sexy times, even though she's told him about her encounter with Oro in the desert. But they start to do it in the dream. I think somebody predicted that. I can't remember if I put it on the bingo board, but apparently that's a common trope in these romanticities where the romantic couple gets separated. They have horny dreams about each other so that we can still have the horniness, but they can still be separated so we can have the best of both worlds. I don't think I put that on here, though. I am going to give it Isla gets even more powers, because she can apparently just talk to them in their dreams, and nobody's asking questions about that. 0 questions about the Isla dream-walking powers. Oh, I'm also giving it Isla completely abandons her people, because she just told him that she has no intention of coming back to their world, because she is still obsessed with the idea that she's going to have to kill one of the 2 boys. So she's like, I can't come back, because that means I have to kill one of you. So she's fully fine with abandoning her people and buggering off into another dimension. And huge pacing problems, because this is all filler. We have a bingo going down with Isla gets more powers, Puddle, Marrow, Legion, awkward writing, Isla is always right, and everyone talks about Isla. We don't, I think, have any other bingos, but we're very close. If we get the other rulers don't matter, we'll have a bingo across the top. But here's where we're sitting with our bingo card, friends. So yeah, that's what's going on with that. But yes, anyway, she's having sexy times with him in the dream, and it says, this was its own language, its own conversation. He kissed her deeply, thoroughly. Like he's like, oh, this is our secret language we have with each other. Sex. It's really a pity that she has to, like, physically undress him in a dream. You know, she dressed him up a certain way for the dream. But now she's still having to unbutton his pants. Couldn't she just dream magic his pants to be gone? So I know what she means, but it still made me chuckle, because my brain sometimes does funny things. So it says, I love you, she whispered against his lips, between pants. My brain saw, like, pants, like physical trousers. But maybe between breaths would be better? Between gasps? Between pants just made me think of pants. Maybe I'm the only one. That might just be a me problem. The entire chapter is, she shows up in his dream, tells him, don't come look for me. He's like, I'm gonna come look for you. And then they have sex. That's the entire dream. So, yep, Oro's is chapter is a little bit longer, too. Does he also get a sexy time with Isla, or does he not? Because we all know that Oro is not endgame. Oro's scene existed for him to tell her how beautiful and amazing and perfect she is, and then he gets to shut up and go away so that she can have sex with Grimm instead. That's their relationship. He's like her encouragement buddy. She's like, man, I'm feeling bad about myself. I'm going to go hang out with Oro. But if she actually wants to do boyfriend-girlfriend stuff, she goes to the other guy. I bet you in the next dream, Oro's going to be watching from the cuck chair, man. Oro, read the room. Anyway, that was that chapter. And we're back. Let's find out what Oro's up to while Grimm is getting it on with Isla. I love how she felt the need to apologize to Grimm, because she did. She apologized to Grimm for having done it with Oro. But she's still in love with Oro, and she never, apologizes to him. I don't think she should apologize to either boy, but, can we at least keep it even? Or figure out what your relationships are, honestly. It begins, Grimm crashed into Oro's throne room, shadows blazing behind him. The nightshade was soaking wet. We know what he was just previously doing. So, man, everything has gone very orange, and I don't know why. I apologize for nobody's watching this. I could be doing this as a podcast probably, and people would be just as happy. But at the same time, I still like the visual medium of video making, and I'm sorry that I look orange. I don't know why that is. I think it's just the quality of the sunlight coming in through my windows that are just off screen. I promise I will not try to take over a country, okay? I promise. Just because I'm orange. Oh, Oro's a team player. He's like, I had a dream where I saw Isla. I've communicated with her. So he tells right away. He just fully just tells that right away. Grimm was probably going to keep that to himself. Grimm does not ask, considering what Grimm was doing with Isla in the dream, he does not ask what Oro was doing with Isla in the dream. Interesting choice there, buddy. Are you just very confident that she would never? Or do you like to picture it? Do you like to picture it, Grimm? We're having just another very, very identical moment where the boys are like, I hate him, but also I kind of understand him because we're both in love with the same girl. How many different ways can we phrase the exact same things? That's the challenge of this book. And then once we've run out of different ways, let's just use the same ways again. Now Oro feels the need to admit to Grimm that they did it in the desert, and it's like, why is everybody confessing things to Grimm? You don't need to say that. You can just keep that to yourself. She's not his possession that you need to be like, oh, by the way, while you were out, I used your car. She's a human person. This all feels very icky to me, and I can't quite 100% put my finger on why, but I think it's because it makes her feel very objectified. But Grimm has apparently decided to just pretend exactly half of Isla, that is still in love with Oro, is just a separate entity, a separate being that's like an identical woman running around who loves Oro, and the woman who is Grimm's wife only loves Grimm. It's a very weird mental gymnastics that Grimm is doing for that, apparently. This is mildly entertaining, though. They look at the threads, and Oro's like, I can't use the threads anymore because last time I did, I hurt my friends. Although really, it's more because he became, immediately addicted to them and probably shouldn't keep doing that. But he says that he stopped because he hurt his friends, and Grimm says, I don't care about your friends, so I can use them. It's like, okay, pragmatic logic. If that was the real reason and not the fact that he became, completely addicted to them and lost, several days worth of time, I feel like that might be a bigger thing to bring up than the hurt my friends part, but whatever. I guess Grimm's not going to try to use them, though. I thought he was going to be like, I could use them because I don't care who I hurt, but I guess he's not. He's like, okay, Oro, you tried him. I'm not going to try him. Oh, okay, we're back on the Grimm will use it train. We seem to step off, and then we stepped back on. And he's like, the reason that you couldn't interact with the past is because you don't have the power to portal. And he's certain that seeing the past through the threads is similar to portaling, and that's why Oro couldn't have the full experience. So Grimm believes, again, just because he's the main character, he's going to be right, that he should be able to fully go to the past using the threads because he has a portaling ability. All of this is very stupid.
It's so dumb.
It's so dumb, it's brilliant.
No! It's just dumb!
Grimm says portaling is draining under normal circumstances. No, it's not. We have never seen any of them be drained by portaling. That's bullshit. You made that up just now, Alex. Oro is convincing Grimm, though, that Oro also needs to go because they need to talk to Horace, and Horace is more likely to speak to Oro. So the boys probably have to, like, hold hands and use the threads. Again, we are not concerned about the fact that he became addicted to them. It's just that he hurt his friends, quote unquote. Oro's determined to be strong this time. He won't hurt anybody this time because he's thinking of Isla, and the power of loving her will certainly make him strong enough to not be addicted to the threads this time. He does not warn Grimm about this at all. So far, he has not said, oh, by the way, last time I used them, I became addicted and lost like multiple days worth of time. That's not a warning he feels that's necessary to give. Perhaps he feels that that was a personal weakness on his part and nobody else would have that problem. It's very unclear. And we have around him and around him in the same sentence. The castle around him turned to sand, crumbling around him. And then a few sentences later, a portal began to form around him. Boy, everything's happening around him, all right. But eventually, what they get when it doesn't say they hold hands, but I assume they have to be holding hands. I mean, come on, that's how you portal people. They touch the threads. I assume they hold hands. And then a bunch of portals form, like in a line, like several doors, like just a row of portals. And I assume that's how you travel through time. As you step through each one, you go further back in time. It seems like maybe Grimm just sent Oro through, which was not the inclination that I got. I thought we were indicating that Grimm and Oro were going to travel, but I guess no, he just sent Oro through. And Oro goes through several portals and then is in a throne room with Horace Ray, so that was super easy, barely an inconvenience. Oh yeah, I forgot that the threads also embedded themselves in Oro's body. That also feels like something he should have brought up to Grimm, but I guess maybe Grimm's not actually using the threads. Oro is. Grimm is just supplying him with portaling abilities. Again, I don't know the rules. Don't ask me how the fuck this is working. It's all very stupid.
When you've kept your brain, but the world's insane, how the hell you gonna find out the rules?
We are meeting Horace, and we don't really know what he looks like. I guess he just looks a lot like Oro. I'm picturing like a guy who similar to Oro, but older, with maybe a nice trim beard, but we don't know what he looks like actually. Also, Horace is completely unfazed by time travel. He's like, this kid who looks like a sunling spills out of nothingness, and he's like, I assume you are my grandchild. And Oro's like, yeah, a little bit further down than that. And Horace is like, okay, carry on. So, good. Glad we didn't have to struggle with that at all. Oro says, history has repeated itself. You, Lark, and Cronin. Now it's me, Isla, and Grimm. We're on the precipice of ruin because of the other founders. But what about that middle section where you had your brother and his girlfriend and Celeste? Did that not count as like a love triangle that was out of control? Because that's the same thing. All of these things are caused by people falling in love with the wrong people. So that's history repeating itself as well, but we're not bringing that up. We're making a lot of leaps here. Horace's jaw worked. He couldn't meet Oro's eyes as he spoke. It was almost like he didn't want to know what was going on in the future. How do you get that from not looking at you? He, doesn't make eye contact, and you're like, oh, he obviously doesn't want to know what's going on in the future. There could be any number of reasons why he doesn't want to make eye contact. Also, just thinking back on the original Light Lark book, reading that book, we could have never possibly in a million years guessed that we would be here. With Isla in another dimension, Oro traveling backwards through time to talk to his ancestor, just so many bizarre things we could have never. Some series have a really natural progression where when you get to the end of the series, you're like, I see how I got here from where I started. And then there's whatever Light Lark is doing. So Cronin is like, okay, I will help you. Luckily, I know the 3 MacGuffins that you need. The first one is that you have to know the name of the world, which is Skyshade. They're trying to create a portal to Skyshade. That's what he's asking his ancestor for. Next, you need a portaling ability. Yep, check, got that already. And the last thing that they need is living piece of the other world. Oh, and I guess there's a 4th thing. Lastly, and most importantly, great sunling, nightshade, and wildling power. So do we all have to team up like the Care Bears and blast friendship is energy power? Like the ponies? What are we doing? Also, forget the other nations. Why do we have so many if the only ones that matter are sunling, nightshade, and wildling? Why do we even have the other ones? How did they come to be? If they're so peripheral and useless, where did they come from even? Were they offshoots of Sunling, Wildling, and Nightshade? Stop trying to look for explanations, Julian.
The show where everything's made up and the points don't matter.
But they're pretty sure that the only way that they could have enough Wildling energy is if they rebonded with Isla. So she needs to bring back her bonds to them so they can use her power. So, like, they can't go to Wildling Isle and ask everybody there to, like, focus all their power. That wouldn't be enough. Isla's the only one powerful enough. But he's like, even if you do all of the things to portal there, you will get killed by the portal because portals rip people to shreds. But then Oro's like, but what if we linked sacred waters? Because there's just so many things in this book. I hate it. I hate how many dumb things there are in this book. It's just one thing after another. He's like, oh, well, if you linked sacred waters, then it might work. And I'm like, why are there so many steps? You can make up anything, Aster. You've already established that you'll make up just nonsense whenever you feel like it. Why are you adding so many steps to the nonsense? So, yeah, Horace is like, that might work, but he's about to say something else. He says, and even then, like, maybe he's going to add a little bit more, a little addendum, but Oro is getting yanked back through time. Grimm just pulled him back out and asked, did you get what you needed? And Oro's like, yep. First try, baby. So that's the end of that chapter. The Grimm chapter is really short, so I might just read that one too. I don't even know why we're going back into his point of view. What do we need from Grimm? Chapter 33. So yeah, the new MacGuffin that they need is somebody living who came from Skyshade. Somebody or something. I guess it could be like, maybe, is it the bird? Is it gonna be the fucking bird that lays the heart of Lightlark? Or is that too much of a connection to something else?
Get used to disappointment.
Okay, boys. I do not understand this logic at all. So, we harken back to a memory of the time from the previous book where Isla was into capturing storms there for a minute, like Pokemon.
I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was.
And she was capturing them in rings, and the ring that she had just captured a storm in fell off of her finger somehow and fell into the water. And the boys think with certainty that storm was a living thing from the other world. Like, I could understand them saying it came from the other world. The storms came from the other world. But storms are not alive. I don't know if I have to be the first person to tell you this. I don't know if you are today years old when you found this out. Storms, not living. Do we need to do that Sesame Street?
With help from this sign, prepared by the good folks at the Once Alive Institute.
Anyway, the boys are certain going to be right, because they're just like, cool, we need to go find it. And that's the end of that little section of the chapter. So, like, they have a new MacGuffin, and it's dumb. Why was I thinking the bird could be a possibility, when it was obviously the ring that Isla dropped somehow, that has a storm in it? So Grimm goes to see the dragon and the panther. Lynx really likes Oro. I think it's because Oro is physically warm, and cats love warm. But they're going to use the dragon to help find the thing that Isla dropped, I guess, because she was flying on the dragon when she dropped it. Now, I was pretty sure she dropped it into water. Pretty darn sure, because she was over the ocean looking for Cleo at the time, I believe, if I recall. Or at least one of the times that she was flying over the ocean. I'm pretty sure. But he tells the dragon and the panther the ring will have Isla's scent on it. So I feel like that will be a retcon for sure if they find it, like, on the land. When I'm like 100% certain she dropped it into the water. So yeah, they just go get the animals and fly off to go find the next MacGuffin. It's another good old-fashioned MacGuffin hunt. But boy, oh boy, do we love those. I bet you they find it really quickly.
Oh, you're right. And when you're right, you're right.
The next chapter is Oro's, and it's like a page long. I'm not going to read it today, though. I have other stuff to do. But I am betting money that they will find it within that chapter. I will see you then. Keep moving my mic around, hoping that maybe one of these times it'll be like the perfect placement. But, of course, then how will I ever get it there again? Who knows? But anyway, there are ferrets. So if you hear, they're playing like directly behind me. So if you hear ferret noises, that's because it's ferrets. We are on Oro, chapter 34. It's a pretty short one. But the one after that's kind of long. So I might just read the short one here real quick just to knock out a chapter and then probably come back to you later in the day for more. That doesn't really matter, but I feel like I need to report in. Apparently it's only been like a few days since Isla disappeared. So these guys have been real busy. doing all kinds of dumb bullshit in like a couple days. I wonder if this is the author like apologizing for how she treats the animal characters. Oro's thinking about how Lynx also misses Isla, and it says he felt bad that he hadn't involved the panther more. Is that Aster being like, yeah, sorry, I never really include the animal characters all that much. So they go to the battlefield, riding the animals, sniffing out where Isla dropped the storm. Lots of things would smell like Isla in this world. She's kind of been a lot of places, but I'm sure they will have no trouble finding one ring that was probably dropped into the ocean. Although maybe they're looking for a different one. They are going to the battlefield, so maybe they just think that she maybe dropped a different ring somewhere on this battlefield. But apparently this is the one and only place where there are consequences for anything, because the battlefield is just littered with dead monsters, decaying monster corpses as far as the eye can see. Also, it says the ones they had slayed in the fight against Lark, I think it's slain. Maybe both are correct, but slain sounds way better to me than slayed. Slayed sounds like, yeah, girl, slay. Oh, she slayed. Slain, to me, sounds like what happened to somebody who was killed on the battlefield. Oh, he was slain. Maybe I'm the only one who thinks this. Comment below and let me know if I'm like the only crazy person who cares that there's a difference. You know, we found out through Isla that Lynx has this power to allow her to see like her parents' memories sometimes, but apparently also something this cat can do is let people have visions of Isla, because Oro's getting a vision of Isla in her prison cell in the other dimension. This world is so confusing that I'm like, are we doing something new, or are we hearkening back to something we did before that's different now? Like, there's no telling. There's absolutely no telling. You cannot figure out anything in advance of when Aster just straight up tells you. But in his vision, he sees Isla being tortured, and like the pain was unimaginable, the worst thing he's ever felt. And I'm like, well, yeah, of course, Isla has to be suffering more than anybody ever suffered, even more than Grimm. Grimm's going to be jealous because previously he was trying to get the world record on suffering. It was the most important that he win the Suffering Olympics. But Isla, because she's the main character, has to suffer even more. Also, it does seem that this is related to the cat because the cat like flinched as well. Oh, good. In this chapter, which is roughly 2¼ pages long, they already found the ring. It's just out in the field. So I don't know if this is the one that Isla definitely lost at sea, that's just here now, or if it's the battlefield and they're like, Isla would have dropped some rings in the process of this. So we'll just find one of them. In which case, they probably could have just gone to the battlefield with a magnet. But I guess they did. Anyway, they found it. What a easy job. Super easy, barely an inconvenience. But Oro's like, hey, I had a vision via the panther. He's connected to Isla still. And Grimm is like, what if the connection goes both ways? So we have a new thing in play. It's not even a MacGuffin. Like, what is it? A new element? Like, we keep throwing elements at this story. There's a new element in play to add to the pile of stuff they already have going on. Now they also have the cat. They already have the pools, lung water pools. But now we also have the cat. Like, there's so many just things. Alex Aster, please put some things back. It's too many things.
It's enough slices!
Welcome back. We're back in front of the fireplace because it's a very snowy day outside. We had what we in Wisconsin call false spring, where it was warm for like a week, and now we're back to wintertime, and we had like a blizzard last night, so it's quite snowy. But those are the sort of perfect conditions where we can light a fire, or rather I can light a fire. Yes, this is a real fire, and I lit it because I am the fire witch of the household. But really, I'm just stalling because we have to get back to this thing. Oh boy, oh boy. We're back with Isla. I wonder what she's up to aside from having sex with the boys in her dreams. Well, only with Grimm, really, because he's the only one that matters. Apparently, Cronin is not a very thoughtful man. Unless this is Oro and Grimm coming to get her, they figured it out. Because Cronin, wherever Cronin took her, there are still storms. So a storm is happening outside, and that means that Isla has her power back. Because we've decided to link Isla and storms now. You know, before it was snakes, now it's storms. Keep up with the latest thing, guys. I cannot be explaining all of this stuff to you all the time. Anyway, there's a storm outside, and so she's got her power back, and that feels like a mistake on Cronin's part. He was, however, smart enough to put her into a Shade Maid prison. She has not figured out how to overcome Shade Maid yet. Okay, she was a little bit immune to Shade Maid in the previous world because of a Skyer that she had, but her Skyer just conveniently doesn't work here. Honestly, I would have forgotten the Skyer, so you didn't even need to mention that, really. I mean, I guess good for Aster remembering stuff that she said in previous books. Oh dear, the inside of the box she was in was impenetrable. The inside of the box she was in. Does it really matter whether it's the inside or the outside of the cell that has more Shade Maid? I feel like you could just say the box. Heck, if you want to be really specific, the internal walls. I don't know. It's so clunky. Lark is barely a character anymore. We do remember she's here to just be like, she can kind of heal herself now that they have their powers back, but Cronin's done something to her to make it where she can't fully. Because if she ever was fully powered, he'd have a problem. I feel like Aster didn't really know what she wanted to do with Lark for most of this book, so Lark is just conveniently incapacitated. Man, we keep getting the word shred, but not in the context of Grimm shredding her clothing, which is what we have on the bingo card. But, you know, good old Cronin is shredding her mind and her memories. Apparently, though, he is permanently altering her memories. She's aware of this, but, like, what would that be like? If someone permanently altered or destroyed your memories, wouldn't you start to wonder which ones were altered and which ones were real? How would you keep track? I keep adjusting where my mic is. I hope that doesn't ruin everyone's listening experience. So while she's, getting tortured, she gets a flash of something that she knows is not a memory. And she realizes that she's seeing through Lynx's eyes. And it says, somehow he was sending this image to her, just like he had before when she had touched his furs. Furs, plural. Not fur, like you would say about an animal. I don't pet the cat and say, I'm petting his furs. Sometimes I wonder, did a human write this book? I know a human almost certainly wrote this book. She's just very bad at it. But, like, seriously? Maybe Aster doesn't have a pet. Maybe she doesn't know that it's not called that. Convenient that she only realizes that she's still bonded to Lynx once the boys start working with Lynx. Before, Lynx was apparently just sitting around twiddling his paws, because, like, she had no idea until this exact moment. So through the cat, the boys now communicate with her in real time, and they tell her that they're coming to get her, and of course Grimm has to be like, we're infinite. Never forget we have that special thing that you and Oro don't even have. You and me, we're infinite. And then the Silver Woman, who I still don't know what's up with that, chimes in, you have only gotten stronger, and that strength, it has no limit. You have no limit. I mean, we already knew that. We already knew that Isla was more special than anyone who was ever special. So, like, being told she has no limit now doesn't mean anything.
The limit does not exist.
I love Aster's writing when she decides something ought to happen. For the first time, she felt stronger than Cronin. She felt like she could break free. And that's exactly what Isla did. It's like a children's book. So she's broken free of Cronin, and he tries to attack her, and the silver lady in her head says, picture a pool, and it says, her heart became silver water, rippling and endless. She let it fill her up, shielding her mind from Cronin's attack. What does that mean? Her heart became silver water, rippling and endless. Her heart did that. And she let it fill her up, this silver water that her heart became, shielding her mind from Cronin's attack. So her heart became silver water. I know this is all like metaphorical, but it's bad at it. Like, what, even if I'm not being literal, which we shouldn't be, what does it mean for your heart to become silver water? So suddenly she's envisioning a pool, and the silver lady is there, and it says, who are you? Isla asked. By now she had realized every interaction with her had solely been in her head. Was that something that she didn't know before? Did she think that the silver lady was, like, physically in the world with her? Because I didn't think that was ever a thing. But okay. I assume we're gonna find out what this vision was later, but, like, this is so frustrating. In a matter of moments, she's looking in the water, and it says, in a matter of moments, she saw ... everything, an impossible existence. No further details on that. We have no idea what an impossible existence means. And immediately after that, it says, when it ended, she stumbled back, blinking, then turned to the woman in awe. What did she see? What is she in awe of? What does an impossible existence mean? Now, we're probably going to be told, but, like, couldn't we have just seen what she saw in real time? Why are we doing it this way? We're doing another Grammatala moment. This is the second one, I believe, in this book, where Isla turns to the Silver Lady and is like, I don't want to do this. And the Silver Lady is sympathetic and like,
I know, baby. It's so sad that you have to do this, but also you are the best thing on the entire galaxy. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So it may be being hinted that this woman was like the previous Isla, because we're getting this indication, this sort of really loose, sketchy theme. Everything repeats itself, you know? As above, so below. Circles upon circles. There was an Isla in the past who had to make the same impossible decision, and now Isla is the Isla of the current time. And the Silver Girl may have been the previous iteration of Isla. That's what I'm getting, like, reading between the lines. It's not very clear, though.
Yeah, we never find out who the Silver Lady is, and nobody's terribly concerned to ask, so I guess it's not important. She's just here to bring plot things. She's the plot fairy.
We love to look at the past, though. We love to journey into memories. The Silver Lady is like, look in the pool again. And Isla's like, is it visions of the past? And the Silver Lady's like, yeah. So we're really not interested in the present or the future. We really want to go and find out what happened before. Why didn't you write that book, Astra, if you're so interested in it? Apparently they're looking at the pool of possibilities. Welcome to the book of silly names for things. So silly. This is like the placeholder names that I give things. This is like if I'm DMing tabletop roleplay for my friends, and I like haven't named something, and I need to come up with a name on the spot, I might be like, it's the pool of possibilities. It's such a juvenile name for something in a book that has like wagons full of body parts. Like, I mean, I think we've already crossed off the tonal switches, but we're there. Because this is such like a children's book name for something. But Isla now can look into the pool of possibilities, and she basically sees the prophecy from Encanto. The pool like fractures, and she sees like different versions of herself. So just to remind you, in the beginning of this scene, which was like 2 pages ago, Isla was being interrogated by Cronin again. She busted out, and now seems to have gone into her mind palace with the Silver Lady to look at a pool, I assume? Is she just standing there in Cronin's room staring at nothing, or has she physically gone somewhere? I don't know. I legitimately don't know the answer to that. Either one. It's very silly. Although I do love the mental image of her just like standing there staring at nothing, and Cronin being like, hello? Hello, I'm trying to interrogate you here. Do you mind? Maybe he's like shaking her, slapping her. She's just staring into nothing.
Use your mind palace. How will that help?
Isla thought of Oro, of Grimm, of Lynx, Wraith. Okay, that I believe. Her people. No. The people of Lightlark. No. The friends she had loved and lost. Like who? Whomst? Of every single person she had left behind. Besides your boys and your pets. Who are you thinking about? Nobody, because there's nobody else. Before she steps into the pool of possibilities, though, she does get a wardrobe change. So she goes from wearing her, like, gross, dirty tunic and stuff. I assume it's a tunic. We only describe her boots. Her clothes are tattered, whatever they are, and she's wearing gross boots. But she gets transformed into a beautiful, sparkling gown. So now she can go into the pool of possibilities looking snatched. There's a certain amount of vagary that you can get away with in a fantasy story, or really any story. Like, for example, I let it slide that it says up here, her senses felt like they were coming alive in a way she didn't have words for. That's pretty vague, but I'm going to let it slide, because she doesn't have words for it, so, and we're in her head. So, okay. This I'm not going to let slide. The more she studied it, the more the pool revealed itself, becoming a color she had never considered. What is the color she had never considered? It's not a color she can't describe. It's not a color she's never seen before. It's a color she never considered. Don't be vague like that. In fact, look for every place that you can be specific. That's one of the things that I'm always telling my clients and basically everybody. Specificity is your friend. You add like 1 or 2 more words maximum to be specific, and it makes the mental picture of what your character is going through vastly, leaps and bounds clearer to the reader. Oh, we're going to keep being vague, though. The rippling waves sounded like an instrument she couldn't name. Great. Do you want to give it a try? Does it sound like bells? Strings? Wind instruments? The bagpipes? Try, Isla. And finally, the water slid over her skin like a fabric she couldn't describe. I hate that entire paragraph.
I hate you!
Also, we all know that Isla doesn't do well in water. If you submerge her, she has trouble using her powers. She's almost drowned a couple of good times, but she's not nervous about stepping into this particular pool. In fact, Isla is almost never actually nervous about going into water, even though by rights she definitely should be. But here she's just like, okay, cool, and she just like floats on her back, and she's perfectly calm. And then she is pulled down to the bottom, and that is the end of the chapter, but never fear, we're going to have her right away again in the next chapter, so we don't even have to wait and read through whatever dumb bullshit the boys are doing to visit Isla again. And back we go. Let's find out what Isla does in the pool of possibilities. Whoa. So Isla goes to a possible memory, I think, where instead of being given sword instruction by Terra, she's being given sword instruction by her father. Obviously, he's not being awful and abusive to her. We don't know what he looks like, by the way. He's not been described. It's just that she recognizes him. She knows he's her dad. And the memory she's getting is of when she was 8 years old and going to choose her own bonded creature because in this memory her mother's still alive, and so Lynx cannot be Isla's bonded. This is a very sunny, happy dream. There's a lot of... It feels very like sitcom-y. Everyone's like, ha 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 ha. There's a lot of laughing and just everybody's so over the top happy. The wildling village is villaging. Her father's lovely. Everybody's just having an amazing time. They finally meet up with her mom, who's got lots of beautiful flowers in her hair, and that's the only description we get. But her mom is sitting on Lynx, and she says, "How was training?" she asked, as she slid down Lynx. Not slid down from Lynx's back. She just slid down the cat as she's just, like, rubbing herself on the cat. We don't get to find out what Isla's actual bonded creature would be. That scene just existed to show us just how ridiculously over-the-top, saccharine sweet, rot-your-teeth happy she and her parents would have been if she hadn't, killed them by being the most powerful baby to ever be a baby. When she comes back out of it, she bemoans to the Silver Lady, that wasn't real, and the Silver Lady's like, oh, but it was real, Isla, because when you killed your parents, you didn't just take their powers, you captured their souls, which is supposed to be reassuring, but is actually horrifying, because does she have the soul of everyone she's killed? Okay. This actually exists so that Isla's mother can appear, and probably her father too, to tell her, how amazing she is. So this entire scene, I think, is mostly so dead people can show up and be like, Isla, you're so awesome. Because we've run out of alive people to tell Isla she's awesome. We need to start bringing in the dead. While her mom's gassing her up, she's like, through all you endured, your heart endured, your hope endured, your love for your world endured. And I'm like, her love for her world? Would have been great to see some of that. And then, for some reason, I guess that's the only thing that the pool of possibilities needs to show her, because all of a sudden she's back in Cronin's room with no real indication of whether she's just been standing there staring at nothing this whole time. Yep, she's even more determined now never to break, because now we've enlisted dead people to tell her that she's awesome. Also, it says now she knew how she would defeat him, so I can't wait to find out what bullshit Aster makes up to explain how Isla found that in the pool. Alright, let's get back into it with old Grimm. Oh boy, oh joy. So as you recall, the boys found something living from the other world. That thing is a storm. Famously alive storms.
I was thinking about this whole situation at work last night, and I was like, you know what we know is alive and from another world is those creatures that were imprisoned under the sea. You could actually make further use of the creatures under the sea. They killed a bunch, but they didn't kill them all. Just have Cleo go back there, find one that looks the least hostile, maybe something small that you could put a muzzle on, and be like, here you go, a living creature from the other world.
She could have very easily changed this to be like something with magic from the other world. Just would have been so easy to switch a word. Slightly more evidence for my thruple theory, because Grimm is thinking about Isla again. Every chapter has to start out with Grimm or Oro thinking about Isla. And he's like, I really don't want to share her, but if that's the only way, and I'm like, okay, are we leaning in towards that thruple thing? I think that Alex wants to keep that option open. And then if she does do it, she can be like, I'm so original. I'm so brave, having this be like the outcome of my love triangle. So Grimm's just flying around on Wraith, thinking about Isla, as you do. That's one of his hobbies is thinking about Isla. And it just so happens that he's flying over his lands and he looks down at the maze. And because he's an idiot, he has never looked at the maze from above before. Not even one time. But now he looks at it and just conveniently, because everything has to be handed to these characters, nothing is logical or thought out, the next thing needs to happen, so he needs to stumble upon it. Conveniently, it looks like a skyer from above, and that's the key.
You serious?
Now he has the skyer that he needed to do the thing. Thank goodness he happened to look down.
It's so dumb.
Adam suggests that he should look down at the maze and find that it looks like a penis, and I agree. He's like, how long has that been like that? So he memorizes it, he's flying over it, he memorizes it, and then he just fucking abandons the dragon. He portals to get the special feather and carve the image that he's just seen into his skin, which I am going to imagine now looks like a penis. So in my head, he's just carved that. He's carved a phallus into his arm. Okay, I guess he maybe took the dragon with him. It just seemed like he was like, bye. We have more puddling shadows. Shadows do love to puddle. I also imagine, so aside from like a phallus, I imagine, that symbol that was like all of the 90s and 2000s kids drew on their notebook? That's what I'm actually kind of picturing right now. And that's it. That's his whole chapter. It's 2 pages long of Grimm flying over a maze, happening to look down at it for the very first time in his fucking life, realizing that it looks like a skyer and carving that into his arm, all in the span of 2 pages. And we still had room for at least 2 paragraphs thinking about how amazing Isla is. And you know what? Let's see how long this Oro chapter is, because I might just do both. Yeah, it's pretty short, so we're just going to do both. It's going to keep going. I do not know if Grimm has told Oro about the skyer situation. We cut to them having portaled to the Starling Isle because they need a lot of juice. They need someone to power whatever sort of silly thing they need to do to go get Isla, and they're going to find it at the Starling Isle. So I think we're finally going to have a use. You remember in like 2 books, there has been this little kid at Starling who's really, really strong. I thought that she was going to turn out to be like something special, but her actual purpose might just be to be a battery so these men can go get their girlfriend back. And in case you were wondering if this child is strong enough, it just says, Cinder had become infinitely more powerful in these last few months. She already possessed abilities Oro had never seen in someone her age. Good, great. Love that. She is just a battery. And of course, when they get there, Cinder, the child, already knows that Isla is missing and they are here to retrieve her. So that saves on them having to explain anything. They can just get straight to using her powers for their own needs. Although, it does imply, like, she knows it because she's, like, really strong. But the implication is that they haven't bothered to tell anyone else. Like, they've told none of the people that this has happened. That the leader of, like, 3 nations is just fully in another dimension right now. One of the powers that Cinder randomly has is that she can sense everybody. She's like Professor Xavier when he's in Cerebro. She can just sense everybody all the time, including in other dimensions. So she can tell that Isla's in another dimension, and she can sense Cronin in that other dimension as well. So, like, this kid sounds like she'd be really useful. We're probably not going to use her for anything except a battery, but also, and at the same time, she's like ridiculously powerful because Aster doesn't know how else to do things. So she's like, here's a super child. Luckily, in case you were worried about them using this child's powers, we are reassured that the kid loves to use her powers. She revels in it. So it's okay. I'm sure we're going to be using Cinder for something else in a future book. I can't imagine she's going to be a one-time MacGuffin, but we are really hitting it hard, like how much power she has. But Cinder, this young, seemed to have more Starling ability than all of them combined. So she has more powers than all of her people combined. And let me remind you that these people can make matter out of nothing. So maybe we should be a little bit actually scared of Cinder. So now Cinder reveals that also she's been having visions of another place, quote unquote, that she needs to get to. So maybe she's from the other world. I don't know. We should definitely be afraid of Cinder, actually, because, like, Cinder's guardian, who is, like, her cousin, I think, Marin, is like, no, you shouldn't use Cinder. I don't want you to use her to your own ends. But Cinder wants to help, because, of course, she does. We cannot be exploiting this child. We have to be, like, using her because she wants to be. So she's, like, blasting power everywhere and flattening, like, leveling forests. And I'm just like, Well, okay, maybe we should be slightly concerned about Cinder and how much power she has and how willing she is to just destroy stuff when she's not getting her way. We got a, like, evil Superman situation on our hands. Boy, apparently Oro did not inform people of jack shit when Isla went missing, because he's explaining everything to Marin while Cinder has a little nap after she destroyed a forest. And she didn't even know that Isla and Grimm were married. So, like, these people know nothing. So I would be ready to just let Cinder take out these rulers, since clearly they do not care if their people have any information. But Marin still thinks that Grimm is a bad guy, which he is, but, you know, right now he's not. And 2, she doesn't know for sure. It's just a rumor that Isla is married to Grimm. Good to know that Oro also subscribes to the Isla is actually 2 people theory, so that anything Isla does bad can just be placed on the shoulders of bad Isla. But also there's good Isla, because he says she's 2 people, the person I met during the Centennial and the one from the past who married Grimm, who died. Isla can do whatever, because anytime she does something you don't like, that's just bad Isla. Marin shrugs a single shoulder. But Oro says, hey, listen, Marin, a war is coming, a war between the worlds, so we're gonna need you to let us use that kid as our battery. And Marin is like, well, you've convinced me, and that's the end of the chapter. It's a really short Isla chapter. Why don't I go ahead and do this one as well? I might as well, you know? Alright, chapter 39, we are with Isla. We've time skipped. Isla visited the silver pool in her mind for the next few days while Cronin tried to break her. Still no indication of whether, when that happens, she's literally just standing there staring into space. I can only assume that that's what happens. So we're just told a rundown of the fact that Isla has seen a lot of possibilities, a lot of possible paths she could have gone down, which definitely makes me wonder if we're going to do some kind of, like, time travel alternate reality fuckery at some point in this story, where, like, the final book is actually just Light Lark again, but she went down a different path this time. But don't you worry. This is not the bad version. This is not the darkest timeline. Don't worry, because it reassures us. Because with every change in decision, even small ones, the outcomes were transformed. And Isla saw that in most circumstances, ... her mistakes had actually avoided even greater bloodshed. So everything that Isla has done in this iteration in her timeline is the best timeline, actually. Can we get someone from the TVA in here to prune Isla? I feel like we need it. Isla looks in the pool and sees what would have happened if she hadn't saved Grimm from the Drex and died the first time, where she destroyed that village. And it says that Grimm died, but the Nightshades didn't die because Cronin is technically still alive and still bound to him, even though he's in another dimension. Don't ask questions about that. But that means the Drex went and, like, killed everybody in Nightshade anyway, and it says the fate Grimm had always feared came true as they destroyed everything and everyone. Grimm did not give a single fuck. We were in his point of view. He did not care. The only reason he occasionally fought the Drex was mostly to distract himself from lusting after Isla. If she hadn't been around, I think eventually he would have gotten bored of that and just left and let the Drex take over his land. I cannot express to you how much this man didn't care about his people or his lands. But we do need to be reassured that if Isla hadn't destroyed that village, which we did find out everyone in it was already basically killed by the Drex anyway, so she really killed very few people and quite a few Drex. But if she hadn't done that, it would have been very bad, actually. So the, like, formative thing that makes her afraid of her powers is the thing that happened in the best timeline. I don't buy it. So in this timeline, she's still watching it play out. Azul and his people are next. The Drex take them down. Even though they can control storms like Pokemon, they still die. They can fly and control storms, but they still die. And then Cleo, it says, Cleo attempted to flee. Bullshit. Cleo hasn't fled a single day in her life. Cleo would have gone down fighting. Cleo would have tied herself to the mast. Cleo would have exploded herself and her people before she tried to flee. Why is Astra always trying to be so insulting to Cleo? Like, what did Cleo ever do to you, Astra? You invented her. Why do you hate her so much? Couldn't at least let her go out in a blaze of glory in this alternate timeline. Apparently, though, Cleo eventually escaped with a few of her people below the sea where the Drex couldn't get them, so she chickens out and hides underwater, a move which Cleo would never do in a million billion years. And it didn't matter anyway, because then the Drex went to Lightlark and killed Oro, and then everybody dies. But that's just so the Silver Lady can reassure Isla that she's actually saved more people than she's killed, in case Isla ever was going to feel bad about something. We cannot have our main character actually guilty of harming anyone. She can only feel guilty for things outside of her control. She cannot feel guilt for things that she's actually done that are bad. Those are the rules. But the big lesson from this chapter is how Isla needs to forgive herself. Not for the things that she's done, but because she's just learned that everything she'd done was actually the best possible thing that could have happened. So, yay! And the chapter ends with her walking into a familiar room and seeing a familiar figure with long silver hair. So are we finally going to have like a moment with Celeste? It's been like 5 books. We are already on chapter 40. I'm still going strong, so I might read a couple more chapters yet tonight. I mean, why not? Let's go, fam. Let's read a couple more chapters before I give up for the night because my brain has melted. Do you think I can seek legal compensation if my brain actually melts from reading this book? I am like halfway through though. Thank God. We are making visible progress. So we're back with Cinder. She's awake now. Grimm is also here. He didn't come with the last time, but now he's here. Cinder calls Grimm the villain.
Oh, you're a villain, all right. Just not a super one.
Aster really wants us to know that she did a villain gets the girl story. We'll say that I am enjoying that Cinder is taking the piss out of Grimm. She's like, why would Isla marry somebody as frankly awful as you? And I'm like, yep, why would anyone? But Grimm says, I have a dragon, and little girls love dragons. This is universally true. So Cinder immediately forgives Grimm for being the worst TM, because she's like, oh, you got a dragon. She goes for a little ride on the dragon. This chapter is like 2 pages long, but we have to be in Grimm's point of view for this. I don't know why we're switching POVs when we do, especially with the boys, because they're often together. Why are we with Grimm when we're with Grimm, and why are we with Oro when we're with Oro? I don't know. And it can be tricky. I will say it can be tricky if you have points of view, if you have multiple points of view in a book, and those point of view characters are together. Now, with books like the 3rd book in my Adventure of Mage series, which is still not out yet, we do have both Maeve and Valentine's point of view. But when they are together, I default to Maeve's point of view because she was a point of view character in the previous 2 books. Only when they are separated do I tell you what Valentine is up to through his own point of view. Because neither of these boys has been like a main character, there isn't an obvious one to take over as the de facto viewpoint character when they are together, so she just seems to feel like she needs to have a chapter from both of them every time we check back in with the boys, when that is not actually true. We have some body melting relief. Good, good. And the entire chapter is just Cinder goes for a little ride on the dragon and has a great time, and then comes down and is like, I'm going to help you get Isla back, which we already knew she was going to do. So I'm so glad that that happened. And we're back with Isla. Let's go. Yep, we're hanging out with Aurora, Celeste, whatever. We're calling her Aurora. Isla thinks that she might be communicating with a piece of Celeste's soul, which implies to me that she does indeed literally steal the souls of everyone she kills. Horrifying implications that Isla doesn't seem interested in thinking about. Don't mind the yelling of the cat. Aurora sighed. She stood, wiping her faded gray dress to rid the cinders from the hearth. I think we're missing a word. I think it should be to rid it of... I think we're missing a couple words. To rid it of the cinders from the hearth? To rid the cinders from the hearth. I don't... Boy, anybody that gives me a hard time claiming that my books are just rife with errors because they found 1 or 2, I'm going to point them at this. Because, like, if they think traditionally published books are safe from errors, I have news. We're treating being a villain as though it's a thing that, like, happens in real life, or that these characters know that they're in a storybook. She's calling herself, like, villainous, and, like, I have never heard anybody say in real life with sincerity, I'm the villain, or this is villainous. Like, yeah, we might joke around about, like, yeah, this is my villain arc, but we're not being serious. We don't think we're the villain of the story that we're somehow in. But these characters, maybe they know they're in a book. These girls spend some time talking about how love made them fools, made them act out. For example, when Aurora started the curses because she was in love with the wrong guy, and how Isla is often blinded by love. You know, girl talk. Apparently having your soul split in two is just a thing that happens, because Aurora's like, yeah, my soul was also split when I was a child, when my parents died. So I guess if you have dead parents, your soul is split. One of my close friends, her parents are both dead. I think I need to tell her that she's actually like two people now. I don't think she knows. I need to inform her tonight. Like, ASAP, that actually she can behave however badly she wants, because then she can just say that it was the evil version of her, because she's two people, because her parents are dead. And of course, Aurora is like, when I was split into the two halves of myself, which is totally a thing that can happen to people, I just decided to feed the evil half. I like succumbed to my evil half. You know, this sounds like a plot of a Charmed episode, very specifically Charmed. They were really into like being genetically good or genetically evil, and like if you fell to the dark side, that was just who you were now. And I know we're supposed to be mad at Aurora for being so bitter that her best friend and her boyfriend cheated on her with each other for so many years, like years and years and years. But like, they didn't have to do that. They could have told her much sooner. Yeah, she would have been mad, but would she have done what she did? Maybe not. Like, they let that go on for so long. We're just saying the themes out loud. Was that Isla's destiny too? To be torn not between two men, but between becoming a villain or a hero? We know we're in it. These characters know they're in a book. They know they're in a book. They're like, do I become the villain or the hero? There's never a question in Isla's mind that she's the main character, though. She knows. If you prefer books about, like, regular people in fantastical worlds, boy, have I got an author for you, and that author is me. I don't write about people like Isla, who are the special, who are, like, the main character. Capital M, capital C main characters. My guys are just people, living their lives in magical worlds, and stuff happens, and they have to go on adventures and things like that. So if that's the kind of book you prefer, you might want to check out my books. Isla didn't want revenge, though. She would always choose love. Except for when she doesn't, sometimes, when she's going through her quote-unquote villain arc. Remember when she was a vigilante for like a while? Doing vengeance on behalf of other women who were wronged by the men whose hearts she stabbed out? Was that her choosing love? She decides to ask Aurora, though, the probably most useful question: how do I defeat Cronin? We have another MacGuffin. So she asks, how do I defeat Cronin? And Aurora says, the Founders transferred parts of their power into an object. It was an ancient practice, long forgotten by now, that would amplify their abilities and give them access to more power than a single person could ever hold within them. Man, that's gotta be like enough power to blow up a sun, if Isla was to wield one of those things. Lark's Horcrux was a feather, though. That feather that Isla has been using. Oh, it is a Horcrux. It's exactly like a Horcrux. Because she's like, if you destroy them, if you destroy each of the leader's Horcruxes, you will weaken them, and then you can kill them. So once you figure out what Cronin's is, you can destroy it and kill him. So we're just blatantly stealing that idea now, are we? Granted, I don't think that J.K. Rowling came up with the idea of magical objects being tied to powerful people and destroying those objects, making those people vulnerable. I think that idea's been around for a long time. But this specifically, of putting part of themselves into an object that was, like, special to them, very Harry Potter coded. And that is the end of that chapter, and that is where I'm probably going to leave you for tonight, but we are making excellent progress, but now I need to go. I just realized I forgot to do something, so see you for the next chapter. The madness goes on. I really just want to get through this thing because I need to post videos. And let me tell you, the videos that I've been posting recently have not been popular, so I'm hoping that YouTube, the algorithm, still likes this, because if the algorithm doesn't like this, I don't know what I'm doing with my channel. So tell the algorithm that you like it by liking, commenting, all of the things. Hyping, that's a thing. I don't know. We are back with Oro, back in a dream. So as you can imagine, this chapter, like every single chapter from the boys, starts out with him just thinking about how much he loves Isla. I should probably stop saying it. Just assume that every single time a chapter opens with the boys, there's at least an opening paragraph just talking about his love for Isla before we actually get down to doing anything. Sometimes it is more than a paragraph. For example, this one has been going on for the entire first page of the chapter. So basically, this is just Oro's equivalent of the scene where Grimm got to have sexy times with Isla. He's just standing on their beach and talking about how much they love each other. That's like, he gets to be the emotional romantic love, and Grimm gets to be the sexual romantic love. She's just like, she's Isla's two people, each one of them. I wonder, that'd be hilarious if Aster like literally split Isla into two people and each of the boys got one. Sort of like, you know that time that Riker got split into two different people in a transporter accident? Oh, we're finding a way to get Oro out of the picture. Thank goodness, we hated having him around. She says that she's going to bring one of them to her dimension tomorrow. But she says, I'm only bringing one. One of you has to stay behind and babysit the world. I don't know why we can't let Azul do it. He seems perfectly capable. Everybody likes him. His people are well treated. But no, he would lose if there was a big war, and therefore can't leave Azul to this. So she's like, Oro, you have to stay behind. Surprising in no one. Color me completely not shocked at all. Wouldn't it be fun if instead Grimm had to stay behind and we just got to watch him learn a lesson about how other people are important too? That will not happen. Anyway, that was the entire chapter. It was just 3 pages, roughly. Them talking about how much they love each other, and then her saying at the very end, by the way, I'm going to bring one of you guys here, even though they're the ones who've been doing all the efforts to get to her, but now she's just going to bring one of them there. So why did they go on all those MacGuffin hunts? Who knows? But she's going to bring one of them, and only one of them, and it can't be Oro. And that's the end of that chapter, and then we're still with Oro's point of view, and it's another short chapter, so I don't know why do we have a chapter break? We could just do a time jump, but it's another chapter. I'm just going to keep going. So now the boys are back at the tide pools that are there when the tide comes in, not when the tide goes out, because Aster doesn't understand how tides work. They're talking about how, like, Oro's hoping that maybe Isla will have, like, a last-second change of heart and pick him instead.
Come on and settle for me.
But we all know that's not going to happen. Or if it does happen, Grimm will find some way to get his own ass there. If you are wondering, though, Julian, does this chapter start out with him thinking about how much he loves Isla and how awesome she is? Yes, also that. That's also present. It's also just reminding us of Isla's choices that we already know because we read the other books. Like, if you wanted to talk about stuff from the other books that has to do with lore or rules or, you know, magical items, okay, re-explain those things. But we do not need re-explained is Isla's love choices. That's the thing we keep getting hammered into us over and over again, is what choices Isla made in love in the previous books, because nothing else matters in these books. Everything else is just weird bullshit that Aster came up with so she can, like, call it a fantasy and do whatever. Like, she just does not care about this fantasy book. This reads like the fantasy book of an author who desperately hates writing fantasy. She loathes it. The only reason she's doing it is so that she can have stuff happen to make her love triangle more interesting and last longer. So they portal the child battery, Cinder, to the tide pools as well. Oro looks up on the cliff and all of his friends are there, his friends who are barely in this. I really messed up saying that we were going to hear I Do Not Die Today, because the friends are really also just window dressing in this particular book. It says he knew Isla. If she was willing to make the connection and let one of them in, it was because she was in trouble. She needed them. This is the girl who pushes both of these boys away at any given opportunity. Whenever she's in trouble, she's like, no, don't save me. I have to do this alone. And in fact, within this book, that's all she's been doing. It's being like, boys, stay away. I don't want you to come save me. But now they're like, oh, she's opening a gateway. That means she's in trouble. No, you don't know her at all, very clearly. None of you know her. They keep being like, I know my wife. I know Isla. And then saying absolutely wrong things about her. So they get to the pool. They drop the storm ring and the threads of time into the pool. I don't know why the threads need to go in there, but they do. And then they face each other, and I assume give each other, like, at least some meaningful eye contact, if not maybe a little smooch, you know, as a goodbye. They shared one last look, one last moment as allies, one last moment as lovers. Maybe Grimm should have mentioned this. I feel like this is an important detail, because if they're going to be yeeted through a portal that might kill them, Grimm is the only one who has the Skyer for protection. Does Isla know that instinctively? Did Aster forget about that detail? Because, like, We shouldn't be sending Oro. He could get ripped to shreds. I'm just going to assume that it works out and she just happens to choose Grimm because she loves him more or something. But like also, Grimm's a real dick for not mentioning to Oro that Grimm is the only one who has like protected himself. So Cinder zaps the tide pool that both the boys are standing in with an energy beam. So they do all the things. The portal is almost activated, but they need Isla on her side to put her energy into it to call one of them forth, I guess. And she just knows that and knows how to do that automatically. Just like she probably automatically knows that Grimm has protected himself with a Skyer where Oro has not. Alternately, I think that that might be just the author not thinking, which is not surprising to me, about how like she was always planning for Grimm to be the one who goes, and so she didn't even bother trying to figure out how Oro would protect himself if he was the one who went. She's just like, let me make sure that Grimm is protected, and then we're not even going to worry about Oro because I know he's not going. The thing is, the reader doesn't know he's not going until he doesn't go. It is what it is with this girly. Alright, let's read at least one more chapter before my memory card is full on my camera and I need to go empty it. We're back with Isla. Let's see which boy she chooses. If she even chooses a boy in this chapter, maybe we'll like go back in time or have another vision or some bullshit. Today was the day! Today was the day. Isla had her plan. We don't understand like how she knows what to do from her side. Oh, okay, here's how. Aurora had given her the information she needed. Good, good.
Super easy. Barely an inconvenience.
So Isla goes to the torture room and starts getting tortured, but she's like, I have already figured out what Cronin's Horcrux is. I'm guessing it's his crown, because his crown is the only item of clothing that's been mentioned about him, and it's been mentioned a couple of times. And it seems like if Aster bothers to mention an object, it might actually come up later. Which is another reason not to only mention, like, one thing. It's another reason to describe more things, is so that your reader doesn't automatically go, oh, that's the MacGuffin, because you've only described the one thing. Apparently, Isla's thoughts have a back. Her thoughts. She felt a jolt as he reached the very back of her thoughts. I wonder what's at the back of my thoughts. Is it dusty? Probably been a while since anyone vacuumed out the back of my thoughts. She realizes as he's invading the back of her thoughts, because she's letting him, to be clear, she's letting him because she wants to like lull him into a false sense of security, I'm pretty sure. She realizes that all this poking around in her brain juices is making them also have a bond. So apparently the ways to do that are romantic love and like magical brain connection. This would have been a cool thing for her to kind of discover earlier than the scene where she needs to use it. Aster also has a real problem with introducing concepts before they need to be used. She can do it sometimes, but not very often. What she tends to do is introduce a concept either the chapter before or in the exact chapter where it's going to be used, rather than seeding it into the story much earlier and then, oh, there it is, there's that thing, that's so cool. You know, the reader enjoys being rewarded for having paid attention. Aster doesn't reward a reader for paying attention. She just, it's like she's the jangling keys, you know, like, oh, look at the next shiny thing, look at the next shiny thing. I mean, this book is written like a TikTok. Every single thing that happens is very self-contained. You don't necessarily need to have seen the other TikToks to understand this one, because everything you need for the chapter is contained within the chapter. So as he starts to withdraw from her brain, she like holds on to the thread that's now between them that we just learned is happening in this chapter. And once again, Isla has totally had a growth arc that was barely existent, so it said she was stronger now, more focused, having plunged into the pool of possibilities. Again, that was last chapter. A thing that she needed to make her stronger was in the previous Isla chapter. Aster thinks that she can't put these things too far apart, or her dumb readers, because she clearly doesn't think her readers are very intelligent, will forget. But Isla, now, she's totally had a growth arc, and she's strong now since she totally recovered from all of her traumatic memories. By the way, this is the middle of the book. This is the sort of growth arc that you probably have as the climax, but we're not doing that. So she forms a dagger of energy and stabs him in the shin. Is it storming? It didn't say that it was storming at the beginning of this chapter. So can she just use her powers now? Was that something else that the pool let her do? Or are we supposed to assume it's storming? I don't know.
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
She summons her father's armor, once again, exactly like Iron Man, and the armor comes flying into the room from somewhere, who knows where he was keeping it, and blocks some of Cronin's shadows from hitting her. Isla uses the armor to deflect Cronin's shadows into Cronin's own brain. And then Isla puts her armor on, once again like Iron Man. The armor just like flies to her and arranges itself on her body. Then she stands over him where he's like kneeling on the floor, screaming in agony. She gives him a speech about how love is the strongest thing, actually. We've heard this speech in pretty much every single one of these books. Yep, okay, confirmation that every time Isla kills someone, she takes a piece of their soul, which again, we are not treating as horrifyingly as it should. But it says, she could feel the whisper of all those souls within her. So she is possessed by the literal partial souls of many, many people. And like, what a horrifying fate to be killed by Isla and then live like a presumably semi-conscious life as a soul inside her body. Only coming out every now and then when she steps into a special pool to give her advice and like gas her up and tell her how amazing she is. I was right and she was right. Of course his crown is his Horcrux. She takes it off his head and she can immediately tell. I love this writing, man. This is so good. The moment it left Cronin's possession, he bellowed as if something critical had been stolen. As if. Almost like that. Oh, Aster. Isla puts the crown on. That's not the first thing I would do with an evil crown, but okay, this is Isla. She does tend to collect magical relics that ramp up her impressive power. So like the moment she puts the crown on, she's like energized with so much power. Isla reaches for one of the boys. It doesn't tell us which, because she can like envision the boys waiting for her in the pool. And she reaches for one, but it doesn't tell us which. The Silver Lady appears, and the Silver Lady drops more lore that she couldn't have told her any other time. Throughout history, in times of great upheaval in the universe, souls have been matched. Isla blinked. Matched souls? She didn't understand. These pairs are matched not only in soul, but in power. You are the first to have 2 souls bound to yours. Of course she is. Of course she's the first. 2 perfect, fated matches. Oh my god, are we leaning into the thruple thing? Your soul is split, Isla. It will continue to split until you die or kill one of them. So I guess that soulmates are real. And throughout history, whenever there's like a time of upheaval, soulmates just occur. Do normal people get soulmates, or is it just royals? Are the billionaires the only people who are allowed to have soulmates, is basically what I'm asking. Okay, so wait. Is Isla going to get split into 2 people in our crack theory who each get a boy, or are Grimm and Oro going to be smooshed together in a Tuvix kind of situation, and then she can have them both because they're one guy? Which crack theory do you ascribe to? This is the first we're hearing of it. The Silver Lady is like, you have to pick one to die or like you will die. One of these 3 people, you, Grimm, or Oro, has to die. And I don't think we heard about Isla being a possibility before. But the glowing lady's like, it was written before you were born. And of course, Isla, because she is the Mary Sue-iest of Mary Sues, is like, well, I am going to rewrite it. The Silver Lady reminds Isla that she's still wearing her mother's charm, which contains her mother's ability to see the future. I don't know why she didn't just automatically get her mother's ability when she killed her mother, because she got everybody else's abilities. She got her dad's. Horrifying. But her mom's instead was in a little vial.
Zydrate comes in a little glass vial.
A little glass vial? A little glass vial.
And she could totally see the future at any point if she ever wanted to crack that bad boy open, but she's not, for undisclosed reasons. So she had a fairly lengthy conversation with the Silver Lady about fate and stuff, and I just wonder how long Grimm and Oro have been in that pool, just waiting. And how long is this child blasting energy at them? But she reaches out and she grabs one boy. Which boy will it be? We don't know yet, and we might not find out. Well, this chapter's got several more pages, so we're maybe not saving it as a surprise. She grabs a boy, doesn't tell us which, and then Cronin starts to act up. So he lunges for the crown, and she, for some reason, this is the choice that she makes, takes it off and throws it across the room. That feels dumb. It was a powerful relic. Just use it to create shadows and smack his stupid hands away. But now the crown is apparently very fragile, and it just broke. So she broke the Horcrux by throwing it on the floor, like a toddler. Cronin is distressed by this, but not dead yet, because he just continues to attack Isla. No, she was not powerless. What are you talking about? So she's dumb for throwing the crown away, but because it says this, but also she was doing fine even before she had the crown. Without the crown, without the connection of their minds, Isla was powerless once more. He's strangling her. And it's like, except for the part where you created an energy dagger and summoned your armor to you, make the armor fly off and hit him in his stupid face. Like, what are you doing? We're still not showing us which boy she grabbed. I still think it's probably Grimm, but the author wants to, like, drag this out as long as possible. with Isla not saying which boy in her own head, which is stupid. She would just know who it was in her own head. She knows who she grabbed. But the world starts splitting open because whichever boy is now in the fray. Okay, finally. That's my husband, she says. So we were correct. She did choose Grimm, which is pretty convenient because, like we said, he was the only one who actually put a skyer on to protect himself. And he didn't even mention that was a thing to Oro, which is pretty rude of him. Yeah, if you're still thinking that Oro has a chance, when she looks at Grimm, it says, "This was a love to rival time and space and destiny. This was a love that would shape fate and galaxies." She never thinks that sort of thing about Oro. Occasionally trying to convince us that she totally loves him too, by being like, "But she loved him." No. Isla scrambled to her feet and ran toward Grimm as he moved toward her. We don't need toward and toward twice in the same sentence. Isla and Grimm ran for each other, or something like that. I don't know. But somehow Cronin still has mind powers, even though his crown is broken and Grimm is a super powerful, godlike being in his own right. Cronin uses his mind shadows to zap Grimm. Wins instantly. Grimm apparently has no resistances whatsoever, which does track because Grimm does not have a personality. He does not have a strong sense of self whatsoever, so honestly this accidentally makes a lot of sense. And then he, very clearly, Cronin has zapped away all of Grimm's memories of Isla, because suddenly Grimm is looking at her like he doesn't recognize her, which is great for the author because they can fall in love all over again. This will be the third time we see them fall in love. That'll be fun. But as she reached for her bond with Grimm that had been forged through countless obstacles, adventures, and memories, and I'm sitting here going, MacGuffin hunts. But she can tell that their bond is gone, and Grimm doesn't remember her anymore, so we get to have a second, through Grimm's point of view in the next chapter, a second meet cute, the first time he's ever seen this girl, and I bet you he's going to think she's the most beautiful thing he's ever seen. And why is she so sad? Why is the beautiful, beautiful girl so sad? And we'll just get to see them fall in love all over again, and I hate it. Tell me you have no idea what you're doing with your book without telling me you have no idea. Alright, that's enough for the moment.
The limit does not exist. The limit does not exist.